Chapter 1495. Bai Yu and Zhao Kaishan successfully walked out of the Golden Tower. This allowed Chao Wang, who was in charge of keeping watch, to heave a sigh of relief. Of course, Chao Wang wasn't worried about their safety. He was only worried that they might die prematurely. If that happened, he wouldn't have much credit. Furthermore, they might even be hunted down. Protector Zhao and the others were strong enough to fight their way out of the encirclement. However, they wouldn't be so lucky. Sima Feng also received his information. As a result, the people from the Bright Moon sect also retreated. What did you do inside? Didn't they make things difficult for you? On the other hand, Bai Yu was very curious about Zhao Kaishan. How was he able to walk out so peacefully? Nothing much. They brought me to an old man's pharmacy. I think he was making medicine for Zhao Chuanxian. I just happened to have some poison in my hand, so I added it to him. Zhao Kaishan said. What? You weren't discovered? Bai Yu looked at Zhao Kaishan in shock. Naturally, she didn't expect Zhao Kaishan to be so daring and have such a powerful method. Of course not. I was very careful. Apart from that, what else did you do? Bai Yu was a little doubtful. She had a feeling that Zhao Kaishan was a little excited after he left, which meant he must have done something inside. But Zhao Kaishan immediately denied it. Of course, Bai Yu couldn't believe such a clumsy lie. Zhao Kaishan wanted to learn the top skill of the human race, lying. This wasn't a simple matter. This was probably the first time Zhao Kaishan had lied. Bai Yu didn't pursue the matter. After all, Zhao Kaishan was a protector of the sect. It would be rude to interrogate him. At least, from the looks of it, Zhao Kaishan had done a good thing. That was to poison Zhao Chuanxuan's cultivation elixir. Even if he couldn't kill Zhao Chuanxian, it would be a good opportunity to cripple him. At the very least, he could prove that it was someone else who did it. After that, he could kill the Longevity River pharmacist and pretend that he was killed by another sect to achieve the same effect. The group didn't meet up. Instead, they circled around the city before returning to the stronghold. In a place like this, it was best to be careful. In the middle of the night, the few of them were gathering the information they had gathered and analyzing it. They wanted to see what they could do to achieve the best results. It was simple and direct. However, at this moment, on the top floor of Jin Manlu, the Imperial Gold Palace. This rooftop was called the Imperial Gold Rooftop. It was surrounded by a large golden platform made of real gold bricks. In this golden pool, bright red blood was boiling and bubbling. There was a long-haired man sitting cross-legged in the pool of blood. His upper body was exposed above the blood. His eyes were tightly shut. The energy from the blood pool around him was surging into his body. It could be seen that in the blood vessels under the skin, these tiny energies were constantly converging and finally condensing at the position of the heart. Around the blood pool, there were two old men in gray robes. These two old men were guarding the north and south to prevent the loss of qi and blood. And in the corner, there was an iron cage that was about the height of a person. Inside the cage, there were 10 young boys and girls with terrified expressions on their faces. Using the blood of young boys to cultivate and create such a terrifying power of the blood pool. These 10 young boys and girls were imprisoned in this cage. They were the last batch. Previously, there were already 2 batches of young boys and girls who were thrown into the blood pool. In less than 5 seconds, they were directly melted. Even the clothes and accessories on their bodies were directly melted. It was even more powerful than the magma in a volcano. They could not change their fate. They could only wait for the arrival of the Grim Reaper. A general's success was built on thousands of bones. This small sacrifice was nothing in Zhao Chuanxuan's eyes. As long as he could improve his cultivation, this little bit of human life was nothing. Just as the effect of the blood pool weakened a little. Zhao Chuanxian was also a little unhappy. At this moment, Elder Tong also came up with the medicinal liquid. Young master, sorry to keep you waiting. The effect of the previous medicinal liquid is no longer enough. Zhao Chuanxian said with a frown. Hearing this, Elder Tong smiled confidently. Fortunately, Wan Shoujiang had increased the effect of the medicinal liquid. Otherwise, there was really no way to explain it now. Young master, don't worry. I specially ordered one Shoujiang to concoct this bottle of medicinal liquid. The effect is about 30% stronger than before. Naturally, Elder Tong did not hesitate to take all the credit for this. He had thought about it before, but for the sake of insurance, he did not mention this matter. You did well. Zhao Chuanxian naturally nodded his head in satisfaction. Young master, are you going to use it now? Yes. Zhao Chuanxian nodded his head. Elder Tong took out the medicinal bottle, opened it, and then dripped the medicinal liquid into the blood pool. When the medicinal liquid was dripped into the blood pool, immediately, the boiling of the blood pool doubled. It was as if there were thousands of fish jumping on it, crackling and splashing. Seeing this scene, Zhao Chuanxian did not panic. Instead, there was a crazy challenge in his eyes. This is the effect I want. Immediately, Zhao Chuanxian also directly activated his blood Chang scripture. The medicinal liquid mixed with the effect of Zhao Kaishan's myriad poison pill had completely integrated into the blood pool at this moment and was being absorbed by Zhao Chuanxian. Zhao Chuanxian had long been thirsting for powerful strength. This absorption also immediately made him feel the abundant power in this medicinal liquid. Immediately, a kind of heat rushed up to his face, and his face was blood red. However, suddenly, among the power that surged into his body, he also felt that it was as if the power of a poisonous scorpion had surged into his body. It was continuously climbing up along the blood vessels. He did not have time to notice the first time and was directly bitten in the heart by this poisonous scorpion. Not only did Zhao Chuanxian not feel angry, but he also felt pleasantly surprised. What I want is this kind of stimulation. This medicine is strong. However, Zhao Chuanxian thought that this was just a little. It was a kind of material that was added to be in charge of regulating. However, what was continuously surging into his body was like thousands of poisonous insects that were constantly devouring his heart. It was as if it was overloaded. Zhao Chuanchuan's body could no longer bear it, but he did not have the ability to shout. It was already too late. Seeing that the young master is enjoying his cultivation so much, I am relieved. Elder Tong was also complacent in his heart. He was waiting for Zhao Chuanxian to inherit the position of the sect master and reward him well. Chapter 1496. Zhao Chuanxian was already in unbearable pain. It was as if his body was crawling with poisonous insects. At the same time, the poisonous insects were crazily gnawing at his meridians. How could Zhao Chuanxian not know that this thing must have been poisoned? It was impossible for it to be caused by the strong effects of the poison. You want to poison me to death? Zhao Chuanchuan's eyes shone with a cold light. He looked at Elder Tong, who was still full of joy on the shore, and immediately reached out his hand. A surge of profound energy directly grabbed Elder Tong, who was in front of him. Elder Tong was not prepared for it. Moreover, Zhao Chuanxian was stronger than him. Hence, he was caught by Zhao Chuanxian and thrown into the blood pool. When they saw this scene, the two attendants who were still guarding the area immediately stood up and widened their eyes. They did not understand why the young lord would suddenly kill someone at this time. Of course, Elder Tong's fate was also very tragic. After being thrown into the blood pool, there was no way for him to survive. Young lord, what is the meaning of this? Elder Tong only had enough time to roar and release his own profound energy, as though he was a spider that was struggling to crawl towards the shore. Die! Zhao Chuanxian directly stepped on Elder Tong's back. Elder Tong's bones immediately broke. His body sank into the blood pool. Then, Zhao Chuanxian borrowed the force and jumped to the side of the blood pool. From a corner, a young lady in a veil walked out. She brought a blood-red robe and put it on Zhao Chuanxian. Young lord, what happened? Seeing this, the two deacons quickly came over and stood in front of Zhao Chuanxian. At this moment, Zhao Chuanchuan's condition was very bad. There seemed to be air sacs in his meridians. The surface of his body looked like poisonous insects that were constantly drilling in and out of his body. However, he managed to escape from the blood pool in time. At least he could recuperate a little now. However, this blood pool could not be used anymore. Just this bottle of poison had wasted such a large amount of refined blood pool. You too, trash, go and investigate Tong Wei's background. I was almost poisoned to death by him. And that Wan Shijiang, capture him for me. Zhao Chuanxian endured the pain. Only by using his mental cultivation method could he gradually suppress the power of the poison in his body. Otherwise, he would have died from the poison just now. Fortunately, his meridians had been tempered. Otherwise, it was possible that he would have died directly. However, these people had yet to capture Wanshou border. They hadn't even made a move yet. Suddenly, a violent explosion occurred in the pharmacy of the Wanshou border. Boom! Zhao Chuanxian and the others, who were still on the Imperial Gold platform, also felt the violent shaking coming from below. Young master, be careful. The veiled woman immediately stepped forward and shielded Zhao Chuanxian behind her. The sharp killing intent in his eyes was like a sharp arrow that pierced through the surrounding darkness. When a large hole was blasted in Jin Manlu, the people in charge of guarding the place also rushed over. When they saw that such a large hole had been blasted in Jin Manlu, their faces became very ugly. Who would have thought that the heavily guarded Jin Manlu would be blasted in such a way? Zhao Chuanxian was immediately escorted away by 2 deacons. The veiled woman also followed Zhao Chuanxian closely. At the same time, there was an elder in charge of Jin Manlu. He had a head full of golden hair like the hair of an ape. The third elder, Yuan Wei. His nickname was the Blood Ape. His strength was incomparably strong. Just now, when the pharmacy in the longevity border exploded, he just so happened to be cultivating upstairs. He almost went berserk from the explosion. Jin Manlu was attacked at this moment, and it must be targeted at Zhao Chuanxian. Therefore, Yuan Wei rushed out directly. He came to the Imperial Gold platform. Take the young master and evacuate. Where's Tong Wei? There was a special aircraft on the roof that could fly short distances. It was also a good helper for evacuating. Tong Wei poisoned the young lord. This pool of blood is ruined. The 2 deacons immediately said to Yuan Wei. At the same time, they pointed at the blood pool. At this moment, the blood pool was already filled with thick black liquid. What? Tong Wei's poison? You're doomed. When Yuan Wei heard this news, he didn't dare to believe it at first. However, facts spoke louder than words. Furthermore, the pharmacy below Wanshou border had been blown up. Most likely, Wanshoujiang had already been used up, so he directly blew them up to prevent any future troubles. This move of burning the bridge after crossing the river was very good. Take the young master and retreat. The tremor just now had shaken Zhao Chuanxian quite badly. The 4 of them boarded the aircraft immediately. As for Elder Yuan Wei himself, he wanted to see if he could catch some of the thieves. It was impossible for the other party to do it so perfectly. There must be some clues that were left out. At that moment, Zhao Kaishan was on a rooftop with Bai Yu and the others, admiring the fireworks in the distance. Zhao Kaishan had used enough explosives. When Bai Yu, Li Xianfeng, and the others saw Jin Manlu explode, their faces turned green. As expected, they couldn't stop Zhao Kaishan from burying the explosives. They were so angry that their lungs were about to explode. However, Sima Feng slapped his thigh hard. Great. Great, the opportunity is here. Everyone, I just received news today. I'm 99% sure that if they encounter an emergency, they'll be hiding at the second place. Sima Feng didn't expect this either. He didn't expect Zhao Kaishan's actions to directly trigger such a situation. Where? Drunken Fragrance Brothel. Sima Feng's harvest today was the situation at Drunken Fragrance Brothel. Although the exact situation hadn't been confirmed, Zhao Chuanxian would definitely go to Drunken Fragrance Brothel once every 3 days. However, the newly recruited girls would often disappear and be replaced by another batch. Therefore, it was very likely that Zhao Chuanxian was cultivating at the second place to neutralize the power of the blood pool. Now that Jin Manlu was under attack, the other party would definitely retreat to Drunken Fragrance Brothel. There's no time to lose. Let's move quickly. Li Xianfeng was also a ruthless person. Since he was going to make a move, he would make it a little more sudden. If it was sudden, even he wasn't prepared. Let's see how the other party was going to prepare. This was the effect he wanted. That's right. Actually, I've buried a lot of explosives in Jin Manlu. Once those people enter, I'll directly blow up Jin Manlu. Zhao Kaishan said. Bai Yu's expression instantly became very ugly. There really wasn't anyone who could stop Protector Zhao from doing what he wanted to do. Even Bai Yu didn't know when Protector Zhao had buried the explosives. He was really too ruthless. Zhao Kaishan took advantage of these few gaps. He used his divine concealment technique to properly decorate Jin Manlu. At this moment, a large number of Shueisha sect's experts and guards had already rushed to Jin Manlu. After everyone had gathered, Yuan Wei also brought people to thoroughly investigate the pharmacy. Everyone check carefully. See if there's any more of this gunpowder around. Who would have thought that the dignified Jin Manlu would be blown up by gunpowder? And what's that? One of the Shueisha sect's experts suddenly saw something covered by a black cloth in the corner. Then he lifted it. Instantly, a wave of profound energy fluctuated as if a profound flame had been ignited. Yuan Wei saw the thing covered by the black cloth and immediately pulled the two people beside him in front of him. Boom! A huge explosion, as if a flame lotus had bloomed in the sky above northern Snow City. Chapter 1497. Yuan Wei himself was a fifth-stage profound king. Under normal circumstances, blocking such an attack wouldn't be a problem at all. But because the explosion came so suddenly, all of them were sent flying. The two people in front of him were directly burned to pieces by the flames. Then, Yuan Wei was also sent flying. He directly flew out of Golden Man Tower. 5 seconds later, the entire Golden Man Tower collapsed with a loud rumble, including dozens of experts from the Blood Fiend sect's elder faction. These were all carefully selected elite experts. But now, they were all buried in the explosion. Zhao Kaishan was quite good at burying explosives. The power of the explosion only covered Golden Man Tower, and didn't even affect the nearby buildings in the slightest. Safe and sound. Damn it. Very good, you actually dared to play dirty. Shuejua, you've got guts. Yuan Wei's figure rose into the air, and he glanced in the distance. The aircraft had already quietly left with the young master. And Yuan Wei had to stay at the scene. Only by doing so could the young master be safer. If he directly chased after them, it would be equivalent to telling the other party where the young master was at the moment. Just now, at least 30 people were directly buried in the explosion. Even Yuan Wei himself suffered not weak injuries, and the clothes on his body were tattered. And his face was also blackened by the smoke. There were also some wounds on his arms caused by the flying steel balls. Good, Shuejua, you just wait for me. In northern Snow City, only Shuejua had the guts to do such a thing. Otherwise, who else would have the guts to do such a thing? Once these experts of the Blood Fiend sect found out, it would be a disaster for them. So without a bit of strength, they wouldn't dare to do such a thing. Only Shuejua of the Blood Fiend sect could do so. The current sect master actually used such a despicable method. It was really infuriating. Yuan Wei continued to stay at the scene, and on that night, he caught several people sent by the sect master. Shuejua naturally sent people to monitor the situation here. After all, the situation here could be said to be very important information. But even these people who were caught were also dumbfounded. They didn't know what was going on at all, and they didn't move. They were only responsible for monitoring and observing from the side. Elder, these people refused to speak. In an underground secret room, 3 people who were in charge of surveillance were also directly arrested. They didn't know anything, but the other party didn't believe them. They thought they were just being stubborn. He had blown up Jin Manlu. How could he be fine? Do you need me to teach you? Yuan Wei, who had changed his clothes, said coldly. The explosion just now had burned off a lot of his hair. Therefore, Yuan Wei was also burning with rage. This was the hair that she had painstakingly maintained, and it was ruined by these bastards just like that. How could he not be angry? His subordinates obeyed. Immediately, the secret room was filled with heart-wrenching screams of pain. After receiving the news of the explosion and collapse of Jin Manlu, some people couldn't fall asleep that night. That person was the Misty Feather Crane. The Misty Feather Crane was a friend of Zhao Chuanxian. The two had known each other for many years. Even the Jean Manlu was provided by the Misty Feather Crane. The Lan family was on the side of the elder faction, and the two sides had cooperated for many years. But today, the Misty Feather Crane had just brought people to Jean Manlu, and as soon as he turned around, he found that Jean Manlu had been blown up. Now, the Misty Feather Crane was very nervous. It couldn't be those two people during the day, right? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. But the Misty Feather Crane couldn't do anything now. He could only ask someone to inquire about the specific situation. He wanted to see if Xiao Chuanxian and the others were fine. But after such a thing happened, everyone must be strictly investigated. Even the people of the Lan family obviously wouldn't be treated well at this time. Drunken Fragrance House. The aircraft landed outside the courtyard. The Drunken Fragrance House in the front yard was doing business as usual. It was a tavern business, and there was no other purpose inside. The business of accompanying people to drink was done freely in private. After all, in a big city like Northern Snow City, it was normal for both parties to be willing. But in the backyard of the Drunken Fragrance House, it was in a closed state. No one was allowed to enter, except for the proprietress of the Drunken Fragrance House, Madame Feng Wu. When the aircraft landed, Madame Feng Wu's heart skipped a beat. She hurriedly asked the girls under her to clear the people out. At least, the more guests there were in the Drunken Fragrance House, the more dangerous it would be for the young master. The risk factor would also increase a lot. The girls under her had also been professionally trained. Soon, the number of people in the Drunken Fragrance House decreased sharply, as if the business was ending early. At this moment, Zhao Chuanchuan's condition wasn't good. The poison was more powerful than expected, and it was a delayed outbreak. Therefore, Zhao Chuanxian was now in the practice room, and two deacons were specially treating Zhao Chuanxian to get rid of the poison. The girl in light gauze had changed into a black and red close-fitting embroidered dress. The embroidery on the dress was in the style of 3 skulls. Blood Skull, a top assassination organization secretly cultivated by the Blood Fiend sect. Originally, the most important thing for an assassination organization was to hide themselves. However, this girl had rusted the symbol on her clothes. This meant that this person's strength had reached the peak of perfection, and he had successfully retired from the Blood Skull. The real top assassin, the king of assassins. When Madame Feng Wu arrived with some healing medicine, Madame Feng was stunned. She was rejected by the assassin who thought she was from the Blood Skull. Madame Feng Wu's expression suddenly became ugly. Wasn't she being treated as an outsider? However, Madame Feng Wu didn't dare to go against a top assassin from the Blood Skull. Otherwise, she might kill you while you were sleeping. You might be walking normally 1 second, but in the next moment, you might kick your own head that was about to fall off. When I was in charge of the young master's affairs, you didn't even know where you were. Madame Feng Wu said fiercely after she left, but she didn't dare to say it directly. She could only walk back a little fiercely. All of you go and rest. Don't go near the backyard. If you don't let me serve you, I won't serve you. Go back to your room and rest. Madame Feng Wu immediately twisted her waist and walked out. She pushed open the door to her room. She was an elder of the Blood Fiend sect for many years, but now she was being scolded by a little girl. However, just as Madame Feng Wu lit the candles in the room, she felt a cold breeze blow past her. Suddenly, she felt a gust of cold wind blowing in front of her. When she looked up, she immediately saw 5 pairs of eyes staring straight at her. Oh! Madame Phoenix Dance, who was about to shout, was immediately covered by Sima Feng's hand. Her mouth was instantly covered, and she fell to the ground. If you dare to shout, I'll kill you. Madame Feng Wu nodded desperately. She expressed that she would cooperate. Chapter 1498. To be honest, Song Tsang was indeed very worried. However, he also wanted to give it a try. If he could really use Chen Zhudao to get rid of Li Zongjiu, it would at least temporarily relieve the pressure between them. At the very least, the relationship between both sides would not be so tense. If there were any problems in the future, they would naturally discuss it properly. Currently, the Azure Ocean Academy and the Tianzong Academy were on par with each other in terms of strength. It was a good opportunity for them to develop vigorously. If they were to start fighting now, it would only benefit others. All right, Evil Lord is a man of his word. I've long heard about it. Today, I'll hand Chenjudao over to you. I hope you can be magnanimous, Evil Lord. There isn't much enmity between you and me. Let's turn big problems into small ones and small ones into nothing. Take this Chenjudao as a gift from me. With that, Prefecture Master Song Hing used his finger to open up the space in front of him and sent someone out. Chenjudao had been recuperating in a treasure in Prefecture Master Song Heng's possession all this time. After all, Chenjudao had been badly injured by the Sky Blaze Royal Line. If not for Prefecture Master Song Heng's help, Chenjudao would most likely be a cripple. The reason Prefecture Master Song Heng was willing to pay such a huge price to save Chenjudao. It was also because Prefecture Master Song Heng wanted to expand his influence in the human race. Chenjudao's strength was not bad and he was one of the few extremely precious human race supremes he had. This kind of person would be very useful in the future. Obviously, Prefecture Master Song Heng and Yao Shan were not stupid. Chenjudao landed in front of Li Zongjio. However, Prefecture Master Song Heng had also used some tricks to make Chenjudao unconscious. Otherwise, if Chenjudao found out that Prefecture Master Song Heng had betrayed him, it might be troublesome in the future. Even if Li Zongjio did not kill him, Prefecture Master Song Heng would have to eliminate Chenjudao. When Li Zongjio saw the injuries on Chenjudao's body, he knew that this guy wouldn't be able to escape. Therefore, Li Zongjio directly sent Chenjudao into his blood soul hell and let the countless blood ghost force take care of Chenjudao. The current blood soul hell could be said to be a truly terrifying place. In this place, you could maintain your consciousness and be constantly devoured and reborn. You could repeatedly experience various ways of dying, leaving you with no way to reverse the situation. Li Zongjio, the housekeeper, took Chenjudao away. Mansion Master Song Heng also revealed a smile. Since Chenjudao has been handed over to the Evil Lord, and it's getting late, I'll leave now. What Chenjudao? Li Zongjio asked in confusion. Moreover, he was looking at Prefecture Master Song Heng and the others with an innocent gaze. As soon as he said this, both Prefecture Master Song Heng and Yao Shan instantly understood. He felt as if he had been struck by lightning. What was the meaning of this? It had only been a short while, and he had already gone back on his word. Wasn't he being too dramatic? He took Chenjudao away and then said he didn't have him. Who could play with him? Evil Lord, what do you mean by this? Do you have to make things difficult for me? Song Heng said in a deep voice. Nothing. I'm not making things difficult for you. Li Zongjio spread his hands helplessly. He didn't seem to agree with Song Heng's words. I just want to trample you to death. He said it casually. There was no exaggeration in his tone. With such an attitude, anyone who saw it couldn't help but think, you're too arrogant, too savage. Trample him to death? All right, then I'll see how capable you are. If you want to trample me to death, you'll have to watch your legs first. Song Heng was furious. The aura of an absolute saint instantly erupted. Song Heng's strength was cultivated by himself, not by zombie worms. That was why Song Heng was able to become the prefecture master of Song Heng Academy. Some members of the Devouring Yuan clan were naturally gifted, so there was nothing to be surprised about. Boom! Song Heng's aura was like a mountain that suddenly pressed down on Li Zongjio. At the same time, Yao Shan opened the Devouring Yuan barrier and landed on Li Zongjio, trapping Li Zongjio within. It ensured that Chenjudao couldn't use his origin energy. Otherwise, his physical strength was already so strong. If he added his origin energy, he would be heaven-defying. Therefore, Yao Shan had to control Chenjudao's origin energy. The powerful pressure instantly fell on Li Zongjio, but Li Zongjio didn't move at all. With a light lift of his hand, he easily stopped the descending mountain. Then, he violently raised his hand to the sky. Song Heng's aura was completely removed. Boom! Li Zongjio's figure instantly disappeared from where he was as he charged towards Prefecture Master Song Heng. What? How can he be so fast? Song Heng Academy Master was shocked when he saw Li Zongjio rushing toward him. This was because Li Zongjiu's speed was too fast. Even under the control of the devouring Yuan barrier, Song Heng could still move so fast. It was shocking. However, Song Heng Academy Master had learned a lot from the human race and had seen many things over the years. Even if one's strength was very strong, one's aura was the most important thing in a battle. Boom! Song Heng Academy Master also threw a punch at Li Zongjiu. Coincidentally, he also caught Li Zongjiu's movement trajectory. Their fists inevitably collided. Boom! Song Heng Academy Master was directly sent flying. Impossible! Song Heng Academy Master was sent flying. Song Heng Academy Master kept repeating in his heart. Clearly, he didn't believe that Li Zongjiu had such overwhelming strength that he couldn't even fight back. How could the gap between the two of them be so big? Whoosh! In the next second, Li Zongjiu appeared in front of Song Heng Academy Master. As Song Heng Academy Master's eyes widened, Song Heng's foot landed on Song Heng's face. Song Heng Academy Master was directly stomped to the ground. Then, as if he was stepping on a board, he quickly slid forward. Whoosh! Song Heng's head continuously smashed dozens of rocks and trees. Song Heng Academy Master's skull was quite hard. Yao Shan saw that the two of them were about to break out of the range of his barrier. Immediately, he hurriedly chased after him. Whoosh! Song Heng Academy Master was being stepped on by Li Zongjiu. He wanted to flip over, but Li Zongjiu's strength made it difficult for him to move. Suddenly, Song Heng Academy Master released his third eye. Suddenly, a ray of light bloomed from his third eye. Whoosh! The ray of light had an extremely strong destructive power. Li Zongjiu tilted his head and dodged it. Looking at the ray of light, he saw that it had at least reached a height of 10,000 meters in the blink of an eye. You're courting death. Li Zongjiu broke Song Heng Academy Master's neck with a kick. With another kick, he easily crushed Song Heng Academy Master's head. Song Heng Academy Master's third eye, which was emitting strong rays of light, flickered a few times before finally losing its light. It completely dimmed. When Yao Shan approached, he immediately discovered that Song Heng had become a corpse. In such a short time. With Song Heng's strength, it was almost equivalent to an instant kill. In less than 3 moves, Song Heng was killed by Li Zongjiu. The difference in strength was not small at all. Damn it! Yao Shan immediately knew that he should not have come. He should not have appeared at Li Zongjiu's place. After Song Heng blocked Li Zongjiu, he should have left. Although it was too late now, he still had to leave. Yao Shan immediately moved again and flew in another direction. Still want to run? Isn't it more comfortable to lie down and wait for death? Li Zongjiu's figure instantly appeared in front of Yao Shan. In terms of speed, the difference was too big. What kind of demon are you? Yao Shan saw Li Zongjiu appear again. He directly landed on the ground. He completely gave up struggling. Kill me. I won't run. Chapter 1499. Yao Shan knew of Li Zongjiu's strength. Clearly, Lin Fan was toying with him. He had Yao Shan's life and death in his palms. Since that was the case, Yao Shan might as well save his energy. You're not going to fight back? Li Zongjiu looked at the person before him. Wasn't this guy a little too smart? To think that he would comprehend the truth so quickly. However, Li Zongjiu would always leave one person behind. He had to rely on this person as bait. Otherwise, how could the rest of the devouring Yuan race find their way here? Wait a moment. Wait for your clan leader to come. Li Zongjiu sat down on the ground. Yao Shan no longer harbored any hope for himself. He was going to die no matter what. Why are you so ruthless towards my devouring Yuan race? Yao Shan could not understand. His lineage was extremely low profile. After all, under his guidance, his lineage had been using an extremely safe method to continuously raise their strength. At the same time, he was subtly trying to assimilate this human into his own body. If the human race did not put up any defenses against the devouring Yuan race, or if the devouring Yuan race were to enter the center of the human race's power, it would be even more convenient. Firstly, they could hide their identity. Secondly, They could unknowingly control the top resources of the human race. For the ambitious devouring Yuan race, this method was extremely good. However, one had to know that the speed of development of this method was relatively slow. It was a pity that their plan was only half successful. After all, once the Azure Ocean Academy's disciples graduated, they would definitely be recruited by other forces. At that time, the Azure Ocean Academy would naturally become one of the top forces in the continent. It was pervasive. All sorts of things could happen. To think that Li Zongjio was the one who had interfered. It was as though Li Zongjio had not discovered the devouring Yuan race's scheme. It was all a coincidence. Furthermore, he did not care about the scheme at all. As long as he took care of the person before him, everything would be fine. It just so happened that this happened to Li Zongjio. There's no other reason. Previously, I said that I would exterminate your entire clan, so I will definitely exterminate your entire clan. There is no need for you to feel confused. Li Zongjio said. As he spoke, he raised his head to look at the sky. There seemed to be dozens of black shadows occupying the entire sky. It wasn't because of the size of these people. Instead, it was their own devouring power that seemed to have devoured the night sky before them. All the power had been taken over by them. You're finally here. Li Zongjio took out the matchless sword. Inside the unparalleled sword, Huo Wushuang was also in a state of cultivation. After absorbing the power of the fire dragon tribe, Huo Wushuang's strength had increased tremendously. The power of the unparalleled sword had also been greatly enhanced. Its sharpness was unparalleled. When the unparalleled sword landed on the ground, a sharp, intense sword into the sky. Boom! A gust of sword chi soared into the sky like a whirlwind, easily breaking through the aura of the people in the sky. Patriarch! Yao Shan raised his head. He was extremely emotional. Finally, the patriarch had arrived. However, at this moment, Yao Shan was thinking that it would be best if the patriarch didn't come. This was because he didn't know if the patriarch could withstand Li Zongjio's strength. If the patriarch wasn't a match for Li Zongjio, then wouldn't their tribe be finished? Just the thought of it was terrifying. Patriarch, be careful of this person. He's powerful. There's no need to say more. Kill him immediately. Yao Shan shouted loudly. In the next moment, Li Zongjio slashed Yao Shan into two with his sword. The patriarch of the devouring Yuan clan was called Tian Yuan. Tian Yuan was one of the top experts in the devouring Yuan clan. He was an earth-grade expert. Some time ago, the devouring Yuan clan had cooperated with the dragon tribe to occupy the Dragon Island. They wanted to use this method to complete their plan to invade the Saint Martial continent. However, it had obviously failed. It was said that the dragon tribe that rebelled had also failed. It was like a farce. However, Tian Yuan was extremely sensitive. He had sensed something unusual from it. Therefore, Tian Yuan was extremely cautious. However, he didn't expect Li Zongjio to come knocking on his door. He didn't know the background of this person in front of him. Furthermore, Lin Fan had killed his great elder right in front of him. The appearance of this situation immediately made him feel quite shocked. At the same time, he was furious. Moreover, Yao Shan had said that he shouldn't hesitate. He had to kill Li Zongjio first. Set up the formation. Sky-devouring Black Yuan. Patriarch Tian Yuan shouted in a low voice. Then, more than a dozen black-clothed protectors behind him released their strength and landed on the ground quickly. At the same time, they released their devouring Yuan enchantment. Li Zongjio was surrounded in an instant, as if a demon king from hell had come into being. It was as if there were 10 demons from hell who were good at devouring. They were devouring everything around Li Zongjio. Eventually, the space around Li Zongjio became empty. All matter had been devoured. If this continued, Li Zongjio would be sealed in the incomparably dark world by the other party forever. He would be imprisoned there forever. Break! Li Zongjio sensed his opponent's intention. He wouldn't let him succeed so easily. After all, the devouring Yuan clan was a big clan. They were as powerful as the human tribe. They must have many tricks up their sleeves. Li Zongjio was arrogant and confident, but he wasn't blind. He wouldn't let his opponent do whatever he wanted. He slashed out with the unparalleled sword. A terrifying force pierced through the world. Ferocious sword chi attacked. However, it seemed to be devoured by his opponent's devouring power. Interesting. Li Zongjio suddenly realized that the other party's array was very powerful. It could directly devour all the matter around him. It had devoured all of his power. Even the power unleashed by the Meat Society was easily devoured by the other party. Let's test my innate will. Li Zongjio kept the unparalleled sword. His opponent's devouring power had already landed on Li Zongjio's body. Obviously, he wanted to devour Li Zongjio's body as well. However, Li Zongjio's physical strength wasn't weak. Therefore, he managed to resist it. For the time being, he couldn't devour Li Zongjio directly. Boom! Li Zongjio's eyes emitted a beam of will. Tian Yuan saw this and ordered everyone to increase the output of the formation. This person's will is very strong. Use all your strength to suppress him. Sky-devouring black essence. The protectors around him roared angrily in unison. Then they released their own strength. Immediately, a terrifying power bloomed. Boom! Li Zongjio could feel that the suppression on his body had become even stronger. Even his opponent's devouring power had started to devour Li Zongjio's body. Quite a few injuries had appeared. Hammer of Will. All of a sudden, a hammer appeared in Li Zongjio's hand. When the hammer appeared, it was as if it had been struck by lightning. Then, a powerful force suddenly burst out. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was stunned. In the next moment, a shocking will erupted from within. Boom! Li Zongjio's hammer of will. It broke through the formation's confinement. Some of the protectors in black were sent flying by Li Zongjio's power. The more power they exerted, the stronger the counterforce they would receive after resisting would naturally be. Behind Tian Yuan, there was a devouring origin beast. The devouring origin beast looked like a slug that was magnified 10,000 times. It was transparent, but it could devour everything. The rest of the people were sent flying, but Tian Yuan himself was unharmed. He even took the opportunity to throw the devouring origin beast at the people in front of him. Boom! Die! Chapter 1500. The devouring Yuan beast behind Tian Yuan rushed towards Li Zongjio. It swallowed Li Zongjio whole. Li Zongjio could feel that he was being swallowed by something. Suddenly, a strong turbid feeling came from all around him. It was hard to keep his mind clear. The power of the devouring Yuan beast was even stronger than the devouring Yuan clan members. It seemed to have trapped Li Zongjio in it. Li Zongjio couldn't see the situation outside, but the people outside could clearly see that Li Zongjio was now in a state of being controlled. He was being restrained. Clan leader's devouring Yuan beast is still the best. As long as the devouring Yuan beast eats this guy, he will definitely die. A few injured protectors from the devouring Yuan clan gathered around Yi Shiwen. Just now, Li Zongjio actually used one move to send them flying one after another. It was terrifying. They had never expected Li Zongjio to be so strong. This guy has already cultivated his will. I didn't expect him to be a human with such terrifying talent. Tian Yuan was already over 1,000 years old. He was considered one of the oldest members of the devouring Yuan clan. However, there were even more ancient and powerful existences in the devouring Yuan clan. There were even powerful existences from the same era as the Saint Martial Emperor. However, these people were obviously more well hidden. Even their own clan members could not find them. The devouring Yuan beast was considered a mysterious species in the devouring Yuan realm. It was rare even in the devouring Yuan realm. It was very difficult to find a devouring Yuan beast even in the devouring Yuan realm. This devouring Yuan beast should be the only one left in the Saint Martial continent. As long as he was eaten, there was no escape. Basically, there would be no chance for him to escape. The devouring Yuan beast would gradually devour Li Zongjio's body and absorb all of his energy. In this way, Li Zongjio would directly become a cripple, which was also known as scum by ordinary people. He would no longer have any power to speak of. However, no one could interfere while the devouring Yuan beast was devouring. However, he could guarantee that no one would disturb him. Li Zongjio was trapped within, unable to break free from the power within. This guy is actually digesting me. Li Zongjiu's mind cleared up. Although the series of movements at the beginning made him somewhat unclear of the situation, Li Zongjiu had a clear understanding of the surrounding environment. He immediately understood his current situation. At this moment, Li Zongjiu felt as if thousands of bandages had wrapped around him, making him unable to move. At the same time, his body was being digested bit by bit. A feeling of emptiness gradually came over him, making Li Zongjiu feel like he was about to faint. If this continued, he would become weaker and weaker. That's great. It's been a long time since my body has faced such a powerful challenge. The means of the devouring Yuan clan were indeed powerful. At least, this was the first time he had seen such an effect. There were not many forces that could trap Li Zongjiu. The current situation was extremely mysterious for Li Zongjiu. He could also take advantage of this opportunity to temper his body. Li Zongjiu's current physical body cultivation was the most troublesome thing. No one could break through his body's defense. Therefore, it was very difficult for him to continue to improve his physical strength. If he wanted to improve his physical strength, he would have to face greater pressure. Li Zongjiu could easily break any stone, dark iron, or anything else. What else was there to say? There was simply no way to improve his strength. Until now, Li Zongjiu finally felt that he was injured. At the very least, his injuries weren't light. After being manipulated like this by the other party, Li Zongjiu felt that he was injured. The wisp of chaotic force in his body was constantly repairing Li Zongjiu's body. However, Li Zongjiu deliberately slowed down the speed of his body's recovery. Clearly, the chaotic force could not be digested and refined. The chaotic force was extremely powerful. It was no wonder that the experts of the devouring Yuan clan were so scared when they saw his chaotic force. It was also because of this that such a situation had occurred. Outside the devouring Yuan beast, everyone saw that the devouring Yuan beast had eaten Li Zongjiu halfway to its body. At this position, there was no way for the latter to escape. The outcome had been decided. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan smiled as well. It's a pity that Song Heng and Yao Shan were killed. If they had come earlier, they could have been saved. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan sighed helplessly when he thought of this. For the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Li Zongjiu was already a very troublesome person to deal with since Li Zongjiu had forced him to such a state. If not for the devouring Yuan beast, it would have been very difficult for him to finish off Li Zongjiu. Boom! Suddenly, there was a violent tremor under the ground. Then, there was the sound of an explosion. It was earth-shattering. Mountains collapsed and the ground cracked. The ground seemed to have cracked. A huge crack appeared in front of them. Be careful! Tian Yuan and the others were shocked. Then, Tian Yuan looked at where his devouring Yuan beast was. Someone is here to save him. Tian Yuan stretched out his hand and lifted up the devouring Yuan beast. The devouring Yuan beast immediately flew into the sky. Swoosh! Just as the devouring Yuan beast was in the air, a huge white bug suddenly burst out from the ground. As it grew taller, it grabbed the devouring Yuan beast. Then, it forcefully dragged the devouring Yuan beast down from the sky. Boom! After throwing the devouring Yuan beast to the ground, the 10,000-tooth bug pounced on it without hesitation. The teeth in its mouth were grinding the devouring Yuan beast into pieces. When one fell into the devouring Yuan beast's body, there was almost no way out. Unless one was like Li Zongjiu, who had the powerful chaotic energy to protect himself. However, the devouring Yuan beast's body was very fragile. It was like a piece of tofu. A casual chop would be enough to split the devouring Yuan beast into two. The Gu tribe? Hurry up and protect the devouring Yuan beast. Tian Yuan saw the appearance of this huge bug. Immediately, he was shocked. This was because the 10,000-tooth bug had already pinned the devouring Yuan beast under its body. How could the fragile devouring Yuan beast suffer such torture? They did not dare to get too close to the devouring Yuan beast. This was because the devouring Yuan beast would sometimes eat everything around it when it was excited. If one stood too close, one would be devoured as well. Then, the devouring Yuan beast let out a low growl. It was extremely painful. The black-robed protector immediately attacked the 10,000-tooth bug. In the sky, there seemed to be some tiny fireflies appearing around Tian Yuan. What are these? The Tian Yuan clan leader was knowledgeable. However, when he saw these fireflies, he could not recall what they were. Suddenly, the Tian Yuan clan leader's face changed. Shit! At this moment, the Tian Yuan clan leader finally remembered where these fireflies came from. Immediately, these fireflies exploded. Boom! Boom! A violent explosion and a strong flame exploded beside the Tian Yuan clan leader. He was immediately covered by the terrifying force of the explosion. A light screen was released by the Tian Yuan clan leader. This was the effect of a protective talisman. It happened to protect the Tian Yuan clan leader. After mingling with the human race for so many years, he naturally knew how to find some treasures to protect himself. Therefore, when the other party triggered the power just now, he activated the effect of the protective talisman. Zhang Biao, the Tian Yuan clan leader roared. He abruptly slammed his palm forward as a terrifying wave of Yuan power swept forward. Boom! A figure slowly appeared from the ripples of Yuan power in his palm. Chapter 1501. After Zhang Biao appeared, Dui and the rest came forward. The devouring Yuan clan was just a tool to be used, but now, Zhang Biao had healed their insect ancestor. If they lost the 10,000-fanged insect ancestor, their Poison Fang tribe would completely decline. It was fortunate that Zhang Biao was willing to let bygones be bygones. Hence, the Poison Fang tribe leader and the rest were extremely loyal and came forward to help her. Boom! Du Ya and the rest appeared in the sky and surrounded the experts of the devouring Yuan tribe. Poison Fang tribe? What is the meaning of this? Have you forgotten the deal between us? I didn't expect the venomous worm tribe to be a bunch of treacherous people, Tian Yuan said in a deep voice. Poison Fang, on the other hand, stood respectfully beside Zhang Biao. No. We of the Gu clan have always kept our word. Your elder Yao Shan, on the other hand, died before he could even fulfill his promise to us. Just now, Elder Yao Shan was at our place and he promised to hand over the energy-devouring bug to us. As long as you hand it over, we will leave. Du Ya grinned. Yao Shan was dead. He saw it when he came. Since Yao Shan was dead, he could ask Yao Shan for the devouring Yuan worm even if he didn't fulfill his promise. Since Yao Shan was dead, there was no evidence. As long as he insisted, he could at least put the blame on Tian Yuan. Tian Yuan obviously knew that Poison Fang was spouting nonsense. How could Yao Shan agree to such a stupid thing? They didn't have the devouring Yuan worm. Hence, such a hypothesis didn't exist. The other party was obviously trying to trick him. Damn it. Under normal circumstances, he could easily kill the other party. However, he had to pay attention to the devouring Yuan worm and Li Zhongjio who was in its stomach. If this guy were to rush out, it would be a very scary thing. The 1,000-fanged insect ancestor was eating the devouring Yuan worm. After all, the devouring Yuan worm looked very nutritious and tasty. In the process of gnawing, the devouring Yuan beast was severely injured. How dare you touch our devouring Yuan worm? Kill this guy. Kill this big white worm. The protectors of the devouring Yuan clan attacked the 1,000-tooth worm at the same time. He wielded his own effulgence weapon in his hand. His third eye also emitted a strong light wave. The light that shot out was like a sharp knife, easily cutting off the 10,000-tooth worm's leg. However, the 10,000-tooth worm's self-healing ability was extremely strong. After the leg was cut off, it grew back very quickly. However, these people from the devouring Yuan clan were so arrogant that they dared to attack the insect ancestor of his clan. Then, the experts of the Poison Fang tribe also pounced on the people of the devouring Yuan clan. Both sides engaged in a fierce battle. Suddenly, the battle began. Zhang Biao and Du Ya, the two great experts, also joined hands to deal with Tian Yuan. After all, Tian Yuan was already an absolute saint. In addition, after opening the Heaven's Eye, his strength was extremely strong. After fighting with Zhang Biao for a while, Tian Yuan himself also took a step back. Then, a grade 9 Yuan Beast's Yuan crystal appeared in his hand. A level 9 Origin Beast's Origin crystal. An absolute saint level beast. It was almost on the same level as a dragon's dragon pearl. Zhang Biao and Duya didn't know what the person in front of them wanted to do, but they had a bad feeling about it. No matter what the enemy wanted to do, they had to stop him. Boom. Zhang Biao and Duya charged at Tian Yuan at the same time. Tian Yuan's lips curled up into a cold smile. He immediately absorbed the Yuan crystal of the grade 9 Yuan beast. What? In the next second his aura exploded. Boom. Then a strong wave of energy exploded, forcing the two of them back. This energy? How can he have Yuan energy? In fact, there were very few members of the Devouring Yuan clan who could cultivate Yuan energy on their own. Only 1 or 2 would appear in 10,000. For example, Mansion Master Tsang Heng was one of them. The others didn't have this ability either. However, Mansion Master Tsang Heng had sent some of the more talented disciples of the Devouring Yuan clan to the Azure Ocean Academy for training. This way, more or less, some of them could break through and cultivate in the future. But now that Tsang Heng was killed, things would be troublesome. It was impossible for an ordinary member of the Devouring Yuan clan to master Yuan energy. But now Tian Yuan, the clan leader of the Devouring Yuan clan, was able to release the aura of Yuan energy. It was at least the aura of a grade 9 Yuan beast. It was shocking. How dare you act so presumptuously in my Devouring Yuan clan? Today, I'm going to kill all of you right here and now. Sky Devouring Black Yuan. Originally, it would have required over a dozen protectors to set up a super powerful formation. However, he was able to complete it all by himself. The heavenly Devouring Black Yuan power was trapped within the barrier. Zhang Biao released her Yuan energy, and the immortal Firefly released a ball of light to protect herself. But at the same time, Zhang Biao felt that it was very strenuous. As for Duya's power, it couldn't be used at all. It was suppressed by the opponent. It couldn't resist the power of such an array. This devouring power is too strong. Zhang Biao's face was very serious. Feeling the terrifying devouring power, Zhang Biao had no choice but to release her own strength to resist the devouring power with all her might. Boom. But Zhang Biao could still feel the strong pressure. Under such circumstances, she couldn't hold on for long. After Tian Yuan devoured the origin crystal to increase his strength, the rest of the people followed suit and took out their grade 8 Yuan beasts' origin crystals. At the same time, they absorbed the energy from their origin crystals. Buzz! When the energy from the origin crystals entered their bodies, all of them erupted with terrifying power. When this power was unleashed, all the members of the Poison Fang tribe instantly felt an extremely frightening pressure. In an instant, they were suppressed and were at a disadvantage. 2 of the protectors from the Devouring Yuan clan broke free and charged towards the 10,000 fanged insect ancestor. After all, the 10,000 fanged insect ancestor wanted to kill the Yuan beast. He could not afford to kill the Devouring Yuan beast. Otherwise, he would have lost a peerless treasure. Boom! Before the 2 Devouring Yuan clan deacons could get close, they saw the 10,000 fanged insect ancestor being thrown to the ground by the shockwave. Li Zongjiu's figure once again appeared in front of everyone. At the same time, he was holding a transparent thing in his right hand. The thing seemed to be struggling. It was the Yuan beast. Clearly, he had caught the Yuan beast. My Yuan beast? The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was shocked when he saw this. Kid, return my Yuan beast to me. Clan leader Tian Yuan roared. When Li Zongjiu saw the clan leader of the Tian Yuan clan, he saw how flustered he was. He curled his lips into a cold smile. Since this thing wanted to eat me, I'll let it have a taste of my power. Then, Li Zongjiu swallowed the devouring Yuan beast in his hand. He actually ate the Yuan devouring beast in such a way. How could this guy be so fierce? Clearly, Li Zongjiu was more ferocious than the Yuan beast. The Yuan beast was almost eaten by this guy just now. Of course, Li Zongjiu didn't mean to eat the Yuan beast alive. Who knew what would happen to the Yuan beast after it ate it? After taking 2 bites, he tossed the devouring Yuan beast into his 10 cardinal hell. "You're courting death!" Tian Yuan roared. With a single hand, he once again unleashed a terrifying power. Black Yuan heaven swallowing array. It fell towards Li Zongjio. Swoosh! Li Zongjio's figure was very fast, and he easily dodged it. Then he dashed forward quickly. The unparalleled sword appeared. Even though he was in the Yuan devouring zone and couldn't use his Yuan force, the unparalleled sword could still cause great destruction. Chapter 1502. When Li Zongjio approached Tian Yuan. Tian Yuan immediately sensed Li Zongjio's approach and quickly retreated, trying to avoid Li Zongjio's attack. After all, he did not expect Li Zongjio to be able to counterattack in such a short time. However, Tian Yuan's movements were obviously not as fast as Li Zongjio's. Moreover, Li Zongjio's attack was extremely fast. Boom! Li Zongjio sent Tian Yuan flying with a slash of his sword. Tian Yuan's body released a defensive shield. However, Li Zongjio broke it in the end. Tian Yuan was shocked. Immediately, he sent a blast of Yuan power towards Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio's unparalleled sword gently blocked the attack. Tian Yuan was split in half. "What? Why are you so invincible?" Before Tian Yuan could finish speaking, Li Zongjio had already sliced Tian Yuan in half at the waist with a single slash. Blood splattered everywhere. Tian Yuan could feel his strength disappearing rapidly. Then he woke up abruptly. He looked down and saw that the lower half of his body had been chopped off by his opponent. How cruel was that? A wave of sleepiness hit him. In the end, Tian Yuan fell to the ground and split into 2. The Yuan power that the latter had absorbed from the Yuan crystal had also dissipated. "Why are you guys here?" Li Zongjio glanced at Zhang Biao and then looked at Duya. Earlier, these people attacked him, but Li Zongjio did not hold it against them. Now they actually saved him. However, Li Zongjio did not need these people to save him. In a situation like this, Li Zongjio was just playing around. It seemed that Duya and the others had started to listen to Zhang Biao again. Otherwise, they would not have come. "I'm worried that you've fallen into their trap," Zhang Biao said. After all, the devouring Yuan clan was quite sinister and cunning. No one knew how many tricks they had up their sleeves. After all, Li Zongjio was alone. Therefore, if such a situation occurred, it was inevitable that they would be isolated and difficult to help, so they quickly came to help. Coincidentally, they encountered Li Zongjio and encountered such a situation. Fortunately, they came in time, just as the 2 of them were talking. On the other side, the people of the Poison Fang tribe seemed to have been suppressed by the other side. Many of them were injured. After all, the other party's Yuan power had soared. Although there were quite a number of them who possessed the strength of zombie worms, there was clearly a huge gap between them and the other party's strength. The fact that they were not instantly killed meant that they had persisted for a while. How troublesome! Li Zongjio leaped up and waved his hand. It was as if an invisible hand had lifted all the protectors of the devouring Yuan clan up. Boom! The protectors of the devouring Yuan clan were lifted into the sky by Li Zongjio. It was something that Li Zongjio could create using his own willpower. Slash! The unparalleled sword in his hand flew out. Then, he slashed the body of the devouring Yuan clan's protector in midair. Bang! 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 The protectors of the devouring Yuan clan landed on the ground. Similarly, they were all slashed in half. Their bodies fell to the ground, and their organs fell to the ground. "You killed my devouring Yuan clan. I'll kill you." Suddenly, a person rushed out from the side and hugged Li Zongjio. Sky Eye explosion. Obviously, there were some people with guts in the devouring Yuan clan. This person directly hugged Li Zongjio and then self-destructed. Li Zongjio punched the man's head. However, he could not stop the explosion. Boom! Li Zongjio's eyes and hands were swift, directly grabbing that self-detonating heavenly eye. All the energy exploded in Li Zongjio's palm. Duya and the others quickly covered their faces and heads. The explosion of the Sky Eye explosion must be very powerful. However, there was too little time for them to react. They suddenly exploded, so they only had time to make a subconscious reaction. When they saw Li Zongjio block the explosion of the Sky Eye explosion with his bare hands, all the members of the Duya tribe widened their eyes in shock. He even felt that his breathing had stopped. Li Zongjio's palm was still emitting flames. When he opened his palm, it was charred black. However, everyone saw that Li Zongjio's palm seemed to be recovering rapidly. The injuries that had originally appeared were all rapidly recovering at this moment. Li Zongjio swung his palm. It hurts a little. The strongest explosion of the devouring Yuan clan. It could easily kill a group of supreme-level experts. However, in front of you, it only hurts a little. They died in vain. Some of the devouring Yuan clan experts who were still breathing, although they were cut in half and had their limbs broken, gasped when they saw Li Zongjio's powerful stance. Then they were choked to death by this breath. In the face of such a powerful person, what else could they say? They could only wait for death. Previously, Li Zongjio was playing hide-and-seek with them and did not use his true strength. Once he used his true strength, the devouring Yuan clan's protectors were easily killed. He killed the devouring Yuan clan's protectors in an instant. Moreover, he did it without using his Yuan energy. Once his Yuan energy recovered, wouldn't he be an even more powerful existence? Duya also thought of this point, and immediately felt extremely fearful in his heart. Why did he attack Li Zongjio back then? Looking at Li Zongjio's appearance, he obviously showed mercy to the thousand-fanged insect ancestor. Otherwise, even with Zhang Biao's help, he might not be able to save the thousand-fanged insect ancestor. Zhang Biao glanced at Duya as if to say, "You should be thankful. Now that you have seen Li Zongjio's strength, the consequences would be unimaginable if they really fought." "There aren't any venomous beasts around here, right?" Li Zongjio asked. "No, our people are a few hundred miles away." Zhang Biao shook her head and said, "Great." Then, Li Zongjio closed his eyes. Suddenly, a terrifying mental strength spread out in all directions. Boom! The mental strength was like moving mountains and filling seas, like a giant dragon passing through. In an instant, everything within a radius of 100 miles was covered by it. Soon, Li Zongjio found the devouring Yuan clan's lair 20 miles away. Swoosh! Li Zongjio didn't say a word. His figure instantly flew up and flew into the distance. Zhang Biao and the others did not know what Li Zongjio was going to do. However, it seemed like he was going to finish off the devouring Yuan clan. After all, Li Zongjio had said that he wanted to kill all the devouring Yuan clan members. Clean up this place and see if there are any useful items. If there are any survivors, kill them immediately. We must pierce their eyes. Zhang Biao said. The vitality of these devouring Yuan clan members was also very strong. If they could not destroy their third eye, they might be able to survive in a short period of time. There would be endless trouble in the future. Zhang Biao stood up and chased after Li Zongjio. She wanted to see if there was anything she could help with. At the same time, she wanted to see what Li Zongjio was going to do. Chapter 1503. Li Zongjio quickly flew to the front of a cave. Before he entered the cave, he could smell a foul stench coming from it. Why do I feel that this lifestyle is like a bat's? Li Zongjio couldn't help but say. In that case, he didn't plan to enter this place. There were hundreds of people from the devouring Yuan clan inside, but they were obviously hiding inside and didn't dare to come out. The clan leader and the protectors all rushed out. They hadn't returned yet. Suddenly, they saw a fireball flying in from the front of the cave. Boom! The fireball landed on the ground. It immediately spread out in all directions. Quick, put out the fire! Someone shouted. Immediately, the person closest to the fire picked up a basin of smelly liquid and splashed it on the fire. However, the fire burned even more vigorously. Boom! The fire directly swallowed the person in front of it. It was as if a flaming man appeared in the fire, reached out, and ate the person in front of it. Then the fire separated and became bigger. The fire quickly spread throughout the cave. Some people wanted to rush out of the cave, but they found that the entrance was blocked by a force. They couldn't get out at all. Then, the people of the devouring Yuan clan were burned to death. No one could escape. The fire burned for 4 hours, until everything inside was burned clean, leaving only dust on the ground. The sky gradually brightened. Zhang Biao stood beside Li Zongjio. In these 4 hours, the miserable screams from the cave were almost like the wails of ghosts and howls of wolves. It was as if a real hell on earth was unfolding in front of them. Zhang Biao couldn't listen to half of it, so she directly closed her ears. She could easily and decisively kill everyone in front of her. However, they wouldn't use such a method to burn people alive. However, Li Zongjio's expression was extremely normal. He didn't feel any discomfort. In fact, many people found it hard to understand Li Zongjio's actions. They even felt that such actions were not befitting of a powerhouse. However, Li Zongjio was the one to say it. "I'm angry at your grandpa's speed. What do your thoughts have to do with me? I, evil lord, will do whatever I want. If you don't like it, you can come to me and we can have a good discussion." Li Zongjio walked into the cave. It was obvious that the devouring Yuan clan had died a horrible death. Many of the skeletons had been burned into ashes, and they were all piled up together. This meant that these people were also piled up together before they died. There was also a newly dug pit. It was about 10 feet wide. Obviously, this was a hole that had been dug to avoid the flames. However, these people had obviously underestimated the power of the flames. Therefore, these people who hid in the pit were directly wiped out in one fell swoop. None of those who were hiding inside had escaped. No matter where you hide, you won't be able to escape. Li Zongjio checked and found that there were no survivors. That's good. Li Zongjio didn't look for any treasures in the devouring Yuan clan's lair. Li Zongjio didn't care about the devouring Yuan clan's belongings. "Let's go. They're all dead," Li Zongjio said to Zhang Biao. Although Zhang Biao didn't agree with Li Zongjio's actions, she didn't say much about Li Zongjio's actions because these people had nothing to do with her. "Are you leaving?" Zhang Biao and Li Zongjio walked back side by side. Li Zongjio had come here for the devouring Yuan clan. Now that the devouring Yuan clan had been killed, it was naturally time to leave. "Yes, I'm going to find the next group of devouring Yuan clan. Duya and the others didn't mean to offend you," Zhang Biao said. Li Zongjio was so strong. "It's okay. I won't be calculative with them because of you. However, the Gu clan will face great changes in the future. If you can't withstand it, the Gu clan will be destroyed," Li Zongjio said seriously. When Zhang Biao heard this, she looked at Li Zongjio with a surprised gaze. Who was Li Zongjio? How could he predict the future? Zhang Biao couldn't deny Li Zongjio's words. After all, Zhang Biao had a bad premonition recently. However, she couldn't tell what the reason was. Now that Li Zongjio had reminded her, she was even more certain that there would be great chaos. "I understand," Zhang Biao said solemnly. "If you need anything, look for me at the White Deer Mansion. Just tell me your name," Li Zongjio said. After that, Li Zongjio flew out quickly. He disappeared into the mountains. Zhang Biao looked at Li Zongjio and frowned. It wasn't easy to find out the reason behind this. However, Zhang Biao had a rough idea after the disappearance of the devouring Yuan race. Now, half of the danger had been eliminated. At least, the external factors had disappeared. There must be an internal problem. I would like to see who dares to do something that would harm the tribe. There was a trace of coldness in Zhang Biao's eyes. Anyone who wanted to harm the stability of the devouring Yuan clan would become Zhang Biao's enemy. She wouldn't show any mercy to her enemies. Li Zongjio first made a trip to the Luoxia city. His father should have returned by now. Therefore, he needed to make a trip back to check on the situation of his 2 elders. Also, he needed to deal with Qin Zidao. However, Li Zongjio didn't intend to kill Qin Zidao immediately. There were still many devouring Yuan clan survivors in the Azure Sea Academy. He could use Qin Zidao to find them. Then, he would kill all the members of the devouring Yuan clan. Luoxia City. Li Zongjio landed on the city wall silently. The sky gradually brightened. The guards on the city wall suddenly sensed someone approaching and immediately looked in Li Zongjio's direction. "Who is it?" Li Zongjio nodded with satisfaction. It seemed that Zhou Bachuan's guards were well trained. At least, they could detect Li Zongjio. Although Li Zongjio purposely leaked some of his movements so that they could sense it. But at the level of the city guards, it was already considered very good. It's the young lord. Greetings, young lord. Greetings, young lord. The soldiers immediately knelt down and bowed. Get up. You've done well. Then, Li Zongjio waved his hand and an invisible force made them stand up. At the same time, Li Zongjio rewarded each of them with a grade 7 elixir. Now, Li Zongjio didn't have many elixirs in his hands. Grade 7 elixir was the lowest grade. Continue to protect Luoxia City. Li Zongjio said. The soldiers who received the rewards were all extremely excited. This was a grade 7 elixir. In the entire Xingyan dynasty, there weren't many people who could refine it. Even some primitive emperors didn't have the fortune to enjoy it. However, Li Zongjio just casually rewarded them. It was enough to change their fate. However, these soldiers were also Zhou Bachuan's troops. Now, although they received Li Zongjio's reward, they didn't keep it for themselves. Instead, they handed over all the elixirs in their hands and prepared to give them to Zhou Bachuan. Don't worry. I will refine another batch of elixirs for Zhou Bachuan and let him distribute it. Everyone will have it. Li Zongjio had always been very generous to his own people. Thank you, young lord. Thank you, young lord. The guards bowed one after another. When they looked at Li Zongjio, he had already disappeared. Chapter 1504. When Li Zongjio returned to the Li family's courtyard, he kept a low profile and did not alert anyone. Young master, you're back. Zhou Bachuan, who was resting in the Li family's courtyard, hurried to greet Li Zongjio when he saw him return. You came at the right time. I'm going to refine some elixirs. Help me get some herbs. Li Zongjio said that he would reward everyone with elixirs. Naturally, he would do as he said. Yes, young master. Zhou Bachuan naturally obeyed. Where's my father? Master is in the study. Li Zongjio then walked into the study. Li Tianqing was also discussing with the three elders about building a new location for the Sparrow Divine Palace. Gigi. Li Zongjio pushed the door open and entered. The three elders' eyes lit up when they saw Li Zongjio and quickly got up. After all, the person in front of them was the man of their palace master. Senior Evil Lord. Most importantly, Li Zongjio was powerful. That was the main point, because Li Zongjio was so powerful that they could not ignore him. In fact, they even had to show him special respect. If Li Zongjio was not powerful enough, he would break up Li Zongjio and Qi Yanran's relationship at any time. In fact, these people did do that at the beginning. However, they were later beaten up by Li Zongjio and became afraid. Therefore, they naturally became obedient. If they still dared to do that, they would know how powerful Li Zongjio was. Sit down. Li Zongjio gestured for the three elders to sit down. There was no need to be so restrained. You brat, you still have the nerve to come back. Where is Yanran? Where did you take her? When Li Tianqing saw Li Zongjio, he immediately scolded him. Li Zongjio did not expect Li Tianqing to launch such a strong attack. How could Li Zongjio withstand it? Where's my mother? I didn't see her the last time I came. You still have the face to look at your mother? Go look at your sister. Li Tianqing didn't give Li Zongjio any face at all. He directly scolded Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio hurriedly left the study room. If he continued to stay, he would really lose face. The three elders of Sparrow God Palace looked at each other and got up to say that they had other matters to attend to, so they wouldn't disturb them for the time being. The three elders also bought a courtyard from the Li family. They sold it for free as a token of appreciation. After all, the three elders were powerful experts. The Sparrow Divine Palace was not weak either. The experts themselves were not short of money. If they wanted to make money, it was a very simple matter. I'll see the three elders out. Li Tianqing said. The three elders also seemed to be very sensible. They quickly left the Li family. After all, experts like Li Zongjio were very busy. They would often travel around, so it should be rare for them to come back today. Of course, they had to give Li Tianqing and the others some time to reunite. If they forcibly disturbed them, it would be too insensible. Li Zongjio found his mother in the kitchen. She happened to be cooking. When Mrs. Shen saw Li Zongjio, she deliberately looked at the door. Her originally happy face suddenly darkened. "Where's Yanran?" "Mother, I'm your son." Li Zongjio's face was full of grievances. Li Zongjio had been wandering outside for so many years and had never suffered any grievances. Only at home, only his parents could make him feel wronged. But it was also this kind of grievance that made Li Zongjio feel that his life was complete. He was more willing to fight and work hard for such a living environment. He would not let anyone destroy his current state of life. This was absolutely not allowed. If anyone dared to destroy Li Zongjio's home, they must pay the price. If such a thing happened, it must be stopped in advance. As long as there was a little threat, it must be eliminated. This was Li Zongjio's idea. Scolding was one thing. Li Zongjio certainly did not say that Qi Yanran was healing. Otherwise, they would definitely be more worried. As long as he said that she was fine, the current situation was indeed almost stable. Li Zongjio observed the situation and seemed to be about to break through again. It was indeed much better to have someone protecting him on the path of cultivation. He could easily break through, unlike Li Zongjio. Although he had 3,000 years of cultivation experience in his previous life, he had only reached the Paragon realm. He had broken through to the Paragon realm after that. It was not that difficult to find out. Moreover, these Supremacy Realm experts were easier to die. Li Zongjio did not know how many he had killed. He could not count them with 2 hands. Until now, he felt that they were just Supremacy Realm experts. He did not know how many he had killed, so he did not take it to heart. Now, Li Zongjio had found the way to cultivate will. But as for how to walk the next path without a definite guide, he could only explore it by himself. But Qi Yanran was different. The existence of the Bluebird platform should be beyond the Supremacy Realm. It was even an existence that could be explored to the next level. Therefore, when Qi Yanran walked, it was much easier than Li Zongjio. This was the difference between having someone to guide her and not having anyone to guide her. Fortunately, Li Zongjio's talent was not weak. At least, he was able to reach this point in such a situation. If he did not become stronger, it was very likely that he would die. Only by constantly becoming stronger could he survive. In the evening, Shenshi specially made 2 more dishes. They were all Li Zongjio's favorite dishes when he was young. Since Li Zongjio was sent to Wuxue Pill sect to cultivate, a series of things had happened. As a result, the opportunity for the family to have a good meal had become very rare. More. Look at how skinny you are. You look like a monkey. How can Yanran like you like this? Shenshi kept putting food in Li Zongjio's bowl. Although Li Zongjio's bowl was already full, she still kept putting food in his bowl. Come, have a lion's head. This is your favorite soy sauce duck when you were young. Old man, why are you eating this big drumstick? Why are you snatching it from the child? Li Tianqing's face was full of grievances. There were clearly 2 drumsticks. Why did he have to give both to the kid? This was too biased. Li Zongjio naturally enjoyed the meal very much. After Qi Yanran recovered, the family would definitely sit together and eat together. By the way, I refined an elixir a few days ago, but the effect is too strong. Each of you can only take half of it. I have already divided it for you. Rebirth is the most basic. You can never imagine the effect. By the way, this is an 11th grade elixir. Chapter 1505. The expressions of Li Tianqing and Shenshi in front of him suddenly stiffened. They didn't even blink. He stared at Li Zongjio in front of him. How much? Li Tianqing thought that he had too much earwax recently, so he didn't hear clearly what Li Zongjio said just now. So, he asked again, wanting to get a clearer picture. Level 11. Li Zongjio said lightly. Level 11. Li Tianqing and Shenshi's eyes widened. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Since when did you learn to brag? Shenshi said. What level was level 11? You must be the one who made it up because you wanted to get beaten up. You must be the one who spouted nonsense. In this continent, the most powerful person was only level 9. A long time ago, it was recorded in the ancient books that there was someone who could refine level 10 pills. How did it fall into your hands and become the 11th grade all of a sudden? You're just bragging. This elixir is called the flying elixir. When you eat it, be careful. Although the effect of this elixir will be based on your body's condition, you still have to be careful. Otherwise, I reckon that chi deviation will be considered a light consequence. Li Zongjio said. Li Zongjio was afraid that the two of them would act as if they were eating a simple pill. They might even give the pill away on a whim. If that happened, Li Zongjio would be angered to death. This kind of pill was not something that could be refined just because one wanted to. If one wanted to refine it now, one would have to capture the patriarch of the White Dragon clan. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to refine the flying pill if they couldn't get their hands on the dragon pearl of the White Dragon clan. So he reminded the two of them again and again. They could tell from Li Zongjio's expression that what he said was true. Since it was true, they had to give it a try. Let's go, Zongjio. Wash the dishes, Shinshir said. Then she and Li Zongjio returned to their practice room to refine the half of the flying pill that Li Zongjio gave them. Li Zongjio had never thought that he, the person who had taken out pills for them to eat, would actually ask him to wash the dishes. Do I look like I have nothing to do? After that, Li Zongjio put the bowls and chopsticks into the kitchen and began to wash them. Although the Li family was really big and famous in the Jianghu, Li Tianqing and Shinshir had always lived a simple life. If they could do it themselves, they would try not to trouble others. So, there weren't many servants in the mansion. Of course, there were still servants to sweep the floor and boil water, etc. However, in this kitchen, Li Tianqing was not used to eating food cooked by others. Thus, Shinshir personally cooked. It had always been like this, so she felt more at ease cooking her own food. It prevented extravagance and waste. So now, the people in the Li family didn't dare to be too extravagant and wasteful. Now, the Li family was indeed very rich. If the Li family wanted to, it wasn't impossible to become the master of the Xingyan dynasty. However, that kind of thing wasn't worth it for Li Tianqing. He didn't know how much time and energy he had to waste every day to deal with big and small matters. What he pursued wasn't these things. It just so happened that the Li family had a kind of cleansing atmosphere. Even the Li family head didn't spend money recklessly and enjoyed too much glory and wealth. If people like you start to be complacent and enjoy here, you will be taken down in minutes. This kind of thing was also very normal. Li Zongjio also rarely washed the dishes himself. Thinking back to his previous life, when he was living alone, he would sometimes make some food by himself. After all, life still needed to have some fun. Now, he finally had such a simple life, and it was gradually fulfilling. Li Zongjio kept killing outside, trampling countless strong enemies under his feet, in order to enjoy such a peaceful life. Suddenly, Li Zongjio felt that his mental strength seemed to have a breakthrough. Everything around him also became clearer. Everything made Li Zongjio feel as if he had fallen into a reincarnation cycle. I'm not in any illusion. Why do I feel as if I can see through time? Li Zongjio was washing the dishes, and he actually had such a breakthrough. Immediately, Li Zongjio's heart was completely shocked. However, Li Zongjio also knew that he should have fallen into a state of epiphany. If he was too anxious, he might cause some trouble. It was better for him to let go of his emotions now. After washing the dishes in his hands, Li Zongjio immediately felt as if he had jumped on the spot. His willpower had actually broken through to Xiantian level 2 at this moment. Li Zongjio was not clear about how strong Xiantian level 2 was, but at least he could feel that his strength had broken through. This is really interesting. Li Zongjio wiped his hands dry, and the bowls and chopsticks were neatly placed in the kitchen. The remaining dishes were also placed in the cold cellar. At this moment, Li Zongjio also returned to his bedroom. He entered the practice room. Of course, the bedroom was there. In any case, Li Zongjio was the young master of the Li family. Although he did not come back often, the room had to be cleaned every day. If he came back one day, he would have to move in. If he found that the room was not cleaned at this time, it would be a big sin. Li Zongjio once again took out the evil dragon's eye in his practice room. This time, let's see if I can destroy all of you. Li Zongjio's previous record was only blocking 10,000 attacks. But this time, Li Zongjio came, and he would not let such a thing happen again. When he took the soaring elixir, his willpower had already broken through. Now, it had also broken through by one level. For Li Zongjio, this kind of breakthrough speed was also very shocking and unexpected. But since there was a breakthrough, it was a good thing. His mind was immersed in it. Immediately, Li Zongjio arrived at the swamp. In just a few moments, the feeling of the earth quaking and mountains swaying came again. But this time, Li Zongjio could also sense the other party's arrival in advance. Boom! The nine-headed devil snake rushed out of the swamp. It was like a world-destroying devil god as it attacked Li Zongjio. Immediately, Li Zongjio's figure flickered, and he easily dodged all the attacks from the other party's 9 heads. Hammer! Li Zongjio also found that the speed of the other party seemed to have slowed down. But in fact, it was him who became faster. So, his figure flickered, and he easily dodged the other party's attack. At the same time, he condensed a hammer in his hand and directly smashed it toward the 9-headed demon snake in front of him. Boom! Li Zongjio did not need to be resurrected at all. Immediately, the hammer smashed down and smashed one of the heads of the 9-headed demon snake. Suddenly, countless forces dissipated in the sky. However, Li Zongjio did not have time to attack the other heads of the 9-headed demon snake. Once again, his body was instantly smashed by the attack. His willpower returned again. Li Zongjio was also shocked and broke out in cold sweat. I was careless. When Li Zongjio opened his eyes, he was very dissatisfied with his performance just now. But after all, it was very rare. Because before, he was unable to see the movements of the 9-headed demon snake clearly, but this time, he was able to directly smash one of the heads of the other party. How could he not be satisfied? No, the power of the 9-headed demon snake suddenly became stronger. Li Zongjio suddenly understood in his heart. It was not that he was too careless. After all, the strength of the 9-headed demon snake was there. Even if he was careless, at least he would not be killed so easily. So, there must be something wrong with the other party. Now that he thought about it, when one of the heads of the 9-headed demon snake was smashed, the remaining 8 heads would receive a very powerful boost. In an instant, the strength of the other party increased, and it was even 10 times stronger than before. So, Li Zongjio did not see the other party's movements clearly, and then he was directly killed by the other party. It was so direct. I didn't expect that a mere evil dragon eye would have so many tricks up its sleeve. Li Zongjio's heart was shocked. This evil dragon eye was an existence of the heavenly dragon level. Just an eye already had such powerful strength. What else was there to say? This kind of existence that could destroy the world, it was estimated that a sneeze was enough to destroy the entire Holy Martial Continent, along with the Holy Martial Realm. No wonder those fallen ones ran so crazily back then. In fact, they were already dead. If they did not take down the Holy Martial Realm, they would have been destroyed. They will naturally perish as well, wiped out completely. Li Zongjio thought of the battle of the fallen ones back then. After all, it was related to the survival of the entire race, so the other party had no choice but to continue to kill crazily. However, this kind of thing could not be blamed on Li Zongjio. If you were really strong, the Holy Martial Realm would have been taken down by you. But now, it seems that you are not that lucky. Chapter 1506. Li Zongjio stayed in Luoxia City for 7 days. This was because both Li Tianqing and Shenshi were at the crucial moment of consuming the soaring elixir. Usually, at this moment, the person who consumed the elixir would emit a scent that would attract some powerful meta beasts. Therefore, Li Zongjio did not leave. Instead, he stayed in Luoxia City and refined the elixir for Zhou Bachuan and the others. After this batch of elixir was distributed, these people were also very hard-working in their cultivation. Therefore, their strength would be able to achieve a breakthrough very quickly. Their overall strength would also rise to a new level. Zhou Bachuan and the others were loyal to Li Zongjio. Now that the elixir had greatly increased their strength, their respect for Li Zongjio was even greater. It had become a kind of religion. At the same time, on the 7th day, in the Li family's courtyard, 2 terrifying auras came at the same time. When the auras rushed to the sky, it seemed to have absorbed all the origin energy within 1,000 miles. Immediately, an extremely terrifying Yuan power vortex was formed in the sky. When the power of the vortex was condensed, Lin Fan's eyes widened. When the vortex formed, all the experts in the city raised their heads and looked up. Even the Sky Blaze Lion, who was resting in the Snow Elixir sect, quickly gathered. The commotion was too great, and the sudden appearance of such a commotion caused everyone to be alarmed. This made the Sky Blaze Lion extremely shocked. This was because this was the sign of breaking through to the sovereign realm. Sovereign or someone in the Li family broke through? Who broke through? This is too exaggerated. Is the Li family trying to have 2 sovereigns break through at the same time? The people in the city also expressed their disbelief. After all, this situation was too terrifying. They never thought that such a scene would appear in front of them. The 3 elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace were shocked when they saw the sovereign aura in the sky, but it was not unacceptable. As long as Li Zongjio was there, nothing was impossible. When they saw the commotion in the sky, they could only sigh at how terrifying Li Zongjio was. This was because one of them was Li Tianqing's aura. Tribulation clouds appeared in the sky. It was because this force broke through too quickly that it attracted the attention of the tribulation lightning between heaven and earth. For any abnormal things, such tribulation lightning would directly appear. If one broke through suddenly, it would be too strong. Under the heavenly Tao, it would think that there was a problem here and would directly kill the person. This was the reason why the tribulation lightning appeared in front of them. Li Zongjio flew to the roof. In the face of this sky full of thunderbolts, these thunderbolts could easily destroy any peak Supreme Being expert. If Li Zongjio wasn't there, just this tribulation cloud alone would be enough to turn Li Tianqing and Lady Chen into ashes. Disperse! Li Zongjio lifted his hand and instantly dispersed the tribulation clouds in the sky. Boom! Even though the tribulation clouds in the sky made an extremely unwilling sound, it dissipated in front of Li Zongjio's power. You're asking for trouble, Li Zongjio said disdainfully. Then he withdrew his hand. The tribulation clouds in the sky gradually disappeared, and the sky became clear again. Everyone in the Luoxia city breathed a sigh of relief. If the thundercloud really blasted the thunderbolt down, even if Li Tianqing and his wife could withstand it, it would be a real disaster for them. Fortunately, an expert took action and dispersed the tribulation clouds in front of them. Wait, the tribulation clouds disappeared with a wave of his hand? However, some of the natives of Luoxia city were already used to such a situation. This could only mean one thing, and that was that the young master of the Li family, Li Zongjio, had returned. And he was in the Li family. Except for Li Zongjio, no one in this world would have such an arrogant attitude. They had no idea how powerful Li Zongjio was. But judging from today's events, it's not that simple. Now, the 2 Supreme Being experts in front of them were obviously newly born in the Li family. Now, the Li family also had their own Supreme Being experts. And they had 2 Supreme Being experts. Before this, there might be some backup forces, such as the 3 elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace, that were invited by the Li family to have such strength. However, these were also external forces. If they left one day, or something happened, and they couldn't protect the Li family anymore, wouldn't the Li family be in trouble? Now that 2 Supreme Being experts were born, these experts also belonged to the Li family directly. Therefore, they could be considered as the Li family's own strength. Li Tianqing felt a breakthrough in his strength in the practice room. Suddenly, tears flowed down his face. He thought of all the hardships he had experienced when he was young, and even all kinds of dangerous situations, and all kinds of hard training in order to improve his strength and revitalize the Li family. However, he didn't know that his cultivation speed had not improved much. Although it seemed to have improved, in fact, it didn't improve much. The latter also knew that it would be very difficult for him to continue to grow stronger. Today, It was only because he had taken a pill given by Li Zongjio. Not one pill, but half of it. Just half of it allowed him to walk the path of a genius for thousands of years. If he had known that it would be so easy, he wouldn't have worked so hard in the first place. When he thought of how he could bring glory to the Li family, and how he had brought the Li family's glory to the peak in his hands, he immediately felt very relaxed. He even felt like he was putting gold on his face. Not only that, but there was still a lot of power left in his body. For the time being, there was no way to completely digest it, but his future cultivation would definitely be easier. At least this kind of energy could help him reach a higher level. The pills refined by this kid are really speechless. After breaking through, Li Tianqing and Qin Shi didn't directly come out of seclusion. Instead, they stabilized their realm on the spot. After all, they had just broken through, so it wasn't good to directly walk out. They had to familiarize themselves with their strength. However, when Li Tianqing found out that Qin Shi had also broken through to the supremacy realm, he was shocked. That was even more shocking. Based on what? Before this, the Qin family was only around the profound king realm. She had relied on the pills given by Li Zongjio to forcefully increase her strength. Before he ate this pill, he was already in the primordial emperor realm, so breaking through to the supremacy realm was understandable. However, Qin Shi had also reached the supremacy realm, which made Li Tianqing a little embarrassed. If the couple were as strong as each other, it would be difficult for the man to raise his head. Therefore, sometimes, even if he had to pretend, he had to pretend. As a man, his self-esteem also made Li Tianqing put more effort into his cultivation. Li Zongjio continued to stay in Luoxia City for about half a month. During this half a month, Li Zongjio often visited Nangong Wuji and the others. When Nangong Wuji and the others came to help, they didn't leave. Naturally, they couldn't stay in the Li family's courtyard. The Li family's courtyard was very strict now. Only the Li family's disciples could enter and leave. After all, more than half of Luoxia City was already the Li family's territory. They could casually arrange some top-notch inns for these people. In addition to playing chess and fishing with Nangong Wuji, Li Zongjio also took some time to give pointers to some of the guest elders with potential. After all, although these people did it for the sake of money, they also did their part to protect the Li family, which could be considered as a contribution. Li Zongjio certainly wouldn't forget them. On the 16th day, Li Tianqing finally came out of seclusion. He came out of seclusion earlier than his wife. After all, the latter couldn't hold it in anymore. Although the refining in these 15 days had directly promoted him to the second-grade sovereign realm, it was too fast for him. The speed of the breakthrough was too fast for Li Tianqing. He had to stop and stabilize. More haste, less speed. Things like cultivation couldn't be rushed. Li Zongjio also came back and told Li Tianqing about the difference between the sovereign realm and the sovereign realm. At the same time, he gave Li Tianqing more than a dozen martial arts manuals. Any one of them could be unrivaled in the world. Li Zongjio didn't take out these things. Why hasn't your mother come out yet? Isn't she too greedy? No, I have to remind her. More haste, less speed. Li Tianqing was actually a little worried about the latter's condition. Could it be that the medicine had some side effects, so now she was sick? Let me see. Li Zongjio also used his own will to investigate the situation of his mother, Qin Shi. He found that Qin didn't have any problems. It was just that her talent had been stimulated, so in terms of the absorption of the pill, it was more than his father, Li Tianqing. That was why she didn't come out of seclusion so quickly. It was because she still needed to cultivate for a period of time. Qin's own strength could also be improved to a more powerful realm. Oh, it's okay. Mother's talent is stronger than yours. Now, she has accumulated enough and fully absorbed the power of the soaring pill. Li Zongjio said. What? How can it be? Li Tianqing's eyes suddenly became jealous. How could she be stronger than him? However, when Li Zongjio looked over, Li Tianqing also quickly adjusted his gaze and gradually calmed down. Well, as expected of my woman. Li Tianqing pretended to be pretentious. Chapter 1507. Nangong Wuji came with a report. As of now, the intelligence network of White Deer Mansion was spread all over the world. Regardless of where the news came from, it could reach them within a day. Moreover, this was the latest time they could reach them. Sometimes, they could even travel around the entire Saint Flame Empire. They were even more powerful than the imperial family. The report in Nangong Wuji's hand was also for Li Zongjio. It said that there was a problem in the Four Seas. The Abyss tribe seemed to have undergone a great change. After Li Zongjio received the news, he prepared to go there. At least, he wanted to go and take a look. Even Long Ji couldn't handle it, which meant that the other party's strength wasn't simple. There must be a problem. Don't worry. Your father will be here, Li Tianqing said in high spirits. After all, he was a Supreme Being expert. Together with a Supreme Being Sky Blaze Lion, what kind of city couldn't they defend? He had never thought that he had such strength. Why do I feel that your words sound strange? Li Zongjio had a bad premonition when he heard Li Tianqing's words. However, Li Zongjio didn't stay for long. He leaped into the air and instantly flew into the distance. This time, he didn't bring the Sky Marshal boat with him. Instead, he left it in the White Deer Mansion. Therefore, Li Zongjio could only rely on flying now. However, Li Zongjio himself was now able to use his own mental strength to perform spatial teleportation. Then, Li Zongjio also tried to teleport in the sky. Boom! Li Zongjio's figure instantly appeared 1,000 miles away. Even Li Zongjio's figure almost didn't stop and crashed into a mountain. Bang! It immediately set off a powerful sandstorm. Bah! Looks like I still need to practice this move. Li Zongjio ate a mouthful of dirt. It was a good thing that no one saw Li Zongjio in such a situation. Otherwise, the evil dominator would have lost a lot of face. After Li Zongjio left, Li Tianqing said, "I'm sorry." He also felt that his body was full of power. However, he was surrounded by ordinary buildings. If he was not careful and did not control this power, the consequences would be quite troublesome. If he accidentally killed someone, it would be troublesome. Therefore, Li Tianqing flew directly to the forest in the distance. Brother Lion, you have guarded my Sunset City for many years. You can be considered as the #1 expert of my Sunset City. Today, let me test your strength. Li Tianqing's confidence was greatly boosted. He actually took the initiative to provoke the Sky Blaze Lion. The Sky Blaze Lion was also very respectful. It followed Li Tianqing and landed in a wild forest outside the city. It seemed to be very relaxed and comfortable with its claws. It looked very bored as it looked at Li Tianqing in front of it. It seemed to be saying, "Come on, come on. Brother Lion, then I won't be polite." Li Tianqing immediately roared. Then, he activated the Lion King technique and rushed towards the Sky Blaze Lion. After a few minutes, Li Tianqing was already under the Sky Blaze Lion's feet. Li Tianqing's strength had just broken through. Although it was now stable at the 2nd-grade sovereign realm, it happened that the Sky Blaze Lion was also a 2nd-grade sovereign. Therefore, when they fought, Li Tianqing could not gain the upper hand at all. He was defeated in a few rounds. After all, Li Tianqing suddenly broke through and did not have good control of his own strength. Even his fighting habits were still in the primitive emperor realm. Again! Li Tianqing was indignant and slapped the ground again. Then he continued to fight with the Sky Blaze Lion. Li Tianqing was trying hard to learn combat experience. After all, he did not want to be surpassed by his wife so quickly. Otherwise, as a man, he would not be able to hold his head high in the future. How would he live in the future? Would he still be the master of Luoxia City? Li Zongjio did not know that his father had suddenly become very motivated and was fighting with the Sky Blaze Lion nonstop. Originally, Li Zongjio wanted to accompany Li Tianqing to practice his skills. After all, if such a powerful force couldn't be controlled, it would be a real disaster for others. Just a simple knock on the door could destroy your entire home. How could it not be terrifying? However, now that there was a problem in the Four Seas, Li Zongjio naturally wanted to clarify the matter first. After all, the strength of the Abyss tribe was not simple. Moreover, it was very easy to cause a very terrifying disaster. Everyone was also very clear about this. If the Abyssal race were to enter a certain body of water, they could easily devour everything within the body of water. It would create a scene of stagnant water. Therefore, Li Zongjiu also quickly rushed in the direction of the four seas. Boom! Li Zongjiu's figure moved horizontally in the sky. He could teleport hundreds of miles away in an instant. Later on, he could control his own strength more freely. The changes that the evil dragon's eye brought to Li Zongjiu were also very powerful. At the very least, if he wanted to kill the evil dragon god in his current state, it would be effortless. There was no need to go through so much trouble. The location of the incident was not in the four seas. Instead, it was in the Qingyan dynasty's naval training ground. There were many cities in the Qingyan dynasty that were built near the sea. Naturally, they also needed powerful naval forces. At the moment when the Abyss tribe appeared, although Long Ji went into the deep sea alone, it seemed like she was going to seal the passageway again. However, she was also held back, so there were many places that she could not take care of. At the moment, the disciples of the Tianzong Academy were also in Binhai City. They were facing the terrifying Abyss tribe together with the local naval forces. According to the invitation given to Li Zongjiu, a powerful Abyss tribe general was leading a large number of Abyss tribe members in this direction. The leader of the Tianzong Academy was a teacher named Zhou Zheng. Zhou Zheng had opened a martial arts dojo in the Sacred Flame Royal City. Back then, it was Zhou Zheng and Su Hong of the Heavenly Elixir Pavilion who had brought Li Zongjiu to participate in the Three Dynasties Elixir Meet. Zhou Zheng's fist technique was very suitable for teaching. He also had many years of teaching experience. Therefore, Xiao Zhao did not hesitate to pay any price to poach Zhou Zheng. Now, he was a fist technique instructor of the Tianzong Academy. A true primitive emperor-level powerhouse. Xia Shui was among the disciples who came along. In addition, there was also a group of elite disciples from Tianzong Academy. In terms of backup support, Tianzong Academy did not provide enough. Only when one was in a real crisis would one feel the growth. Binhai City. The Binhai Navy had a total of 108 warships. Among them, 8 were large warships. When they had gone out to sea for training this morning, one of the main warships had been attacked by the Abyss tribe. It was the commander of the Binhai Navy, Zhang Hengliang. Zhang Hengliang immediately carried out the rescue plan. The commander of the main warship was Zhang Hengliang's daughter, Zhang Ying. However, ordinary fast ships would be attacked as soon as they rushed out of the shallow waters. The other party had a large number of troops and seemed to know how to march and set up formations. Zhang Hengliang immediately formed an assault fleet. The 4 main warships opened fire at the same time, covering the fleet of 3 fast ships as they quickly passed through the blockade of the Abyss tribe. Zhou Zheng and the others were on the warship by the coast, looking into the distance. Suddenly, a loud explosion was heard. At this moment, the distant sea surface and the sky were directly reflected with the color of a red lotus. The flame moved to the high altitude and immediately released a terrifying wave of air that swept over. They broke through. When Zhou Zheng saw this scene, his eyes were filled with surprise. In fact, the combat strength of these sailors was quite strong. Even if they were 10 miles away, they were enough to blast Binhai City into a pile of ruins. If they gathered into a battle formation, their power would be even more terrifying and powerful. Teacher Zhou, senior sister Xia Shui seems to be in the assault fleet. Suddenly, a disciple came to report. What? Zhou Zheng's expression changed when he heard this. Even Zhang Hengliang and the others beside him had a look of confusion on their faces. How can it be? Although Zhou Zheng had brought the students here to train, they were only here to provide support. If the abyssal race came ashore, they would just be there to deal with them. Why would they take the initiative to attack, especially when they were in the middle of the sea? Didn't they know how dangerous it was outside? Damn it, give me the monocular. Zhou Zheng immediately used the monocular to see Xia Shui on the assault fleet. This girl actually ran to the fleet without permission. All of you listen to me. Stay where you are and don't move. If I come back and see that someone is not here, I will teach you a lesson. Commander Zhang, help me take care of my students for the time being. Brother Zhou, don't worry. Zhang Hengliang said. At the same time, he took a step forward and whispered to Zhou Zheng. "Brother Zhou, please help me take care of my daughter. I will reward you greatly." Although Zhang Henliang did not put Zhang Ying first, in fact, he always wanted to bring Zhang Ying back. However, he was the commander and could not be so selfish. Now that Zhou Zheng had a reason to take action, he naturally hoped that Zhou Zheng could help. Perhaps Zhang Ying would have a chance to come back. But as an primitive emperor expert, Zhou Zheng leaped over the sea and soared into the sky. Boom! His figure instantly shot 3 miles away. Chapter 1508. On the coast. The depth of the sea here had reached 1,000 meters. If a person was dragged into the water, it wouldn't take long for them to drown. Before they could drown, they would be instantly killed and devoured by countless abyssal creatures. At this moment, a main battleship was on the sea, isolated and without help. There were some wreckage of small boats around it. It was originally just a normal training at sea, but a large number of abyssal creatures suddenly besieged them. The commander on the main battleship was the 25-year-old Zhang Ying. Zhang Ying was dressed in a blue military uniform. At this moment, he was in the war room on the deck. They had withstood the first round of attacks, but the other party was obviously just probing attacks. They didn't go all out. Now, Zhang Ying was extremely anxious. This was because this round of probing attacks had already consumed 1/10 of the ammunition on the battleship. If this continued, the remaining ammunition wouldn't last until tomorrow morning. Only after nightfall was the real danger. The distress signal had been sent out. There had been a violent explosion 20 nautical miles away, indicating that the reinforcements had been wiped out. It seems like it'll be a hand-to-hand battle after night. Zhang Ying tightened his grip on the sword in his hand. The eyes under the helmet suddenly became sharp. Suddenly, a violent sound came from the sea. It seemed like a layer of red waves with flames was rapidly spreading and surging over. "General, look!" The tremors caused Zhang Ying to look over. Under the torrential waves, 3 ships were tearing through the surface of the sea. Countless abyssal demons leaping into the air were easily slaughtered. After all, these abyssal demons were only low-level existences. If there were really powerful abyssal demons, then they would be killed easily. If there were powerful abyssal creatures, they wouldn't have to be so careful. They could just rush over to Binhai City. "Quick, get close to them," Zhang Ying ordered, and the main battleship immediately approached the 3 fast ships. On the 3 ships, there were also brave and fierce generals. "Haha, I can kill a large number of these bastards with a single swing of my axe. Little girl, you have to sit tight. Don't get thrown off the ship. I don't have time to save you." A burly man wielded an axe in his hand and killed the abyssal tribe in front of him in the water. Then he stood guard at the stern of the ship. Xia Shui was also on this fast boat. The words just now were also directed at Xia Shui, but Xia Shui didn't say anything. At this moment, they were less than 5 miles away from the main warship. Below these ships, there were also incomparably sharp rotating spikes. Moreover, they were all rotating at high speed. Anything that got close to them would be torn into pieces. Therefore, if you want to attack a warship, you can only attack from the surface. It was so much so that there were specialized weapon cabins at the bottom of the ship. The power that they could unleash was even greater. Boom! Suddenly, dozens of abyssal creatures rushed out of the water. The warrior with the axe was immediately entangled by the abyssal tribe. Fuck! He was about to be dragged into the water in the next moment. Xia Shui finally made a move. The sword in his hand. Whoosh! It was unsheathed, shining with a cold light. By the time the cold light disappeared, more than 10 abyssal tribe members had already turned into corpses and fell back into the water. Xia Shui retracted her sword and stood there. It was as if nothing had happened. The burly man was also shocked. He had never seen a woman with such terrifying strength. "Oh my god, you're really good at hiding your strength." When he saw Xia Shui's skill, he was naturally stunned. But then he continued to fight. Originally, the burly man didn't approve of Xia Shui boarding the ship. Although the latter was a disciple of Tianzong Academy, he could tell at a glance that she was a rookie with no combat experience. The real battlefield was ever-changing. It wasn't something that one could handle with just a little strength. But obviously, the burly man underestimated the latter's strength. If Xia Shui didn't make a move, he would be dead by now. The three fast boats also quickly cooperated with each other. The main warship was also approaching them. The sea was turbulent. It seemed that the attack of the Abyssal tribe wasn't that strong. Therefore, the rescue fleet could be considered to have met up with the main warship. Board the ship. The group of people threw hooks and locks. There were a total of hundreds of experts boarding the three ships at the same time. Xia Shui was also among the crowd. The group of people successfully boarded the main warship, but the Abyssal tribe seemed to have retreated at this moment. They didn't attack anymore. Meng Lang, Yang Fan. Zhang Ying quickly came to meet these people. The chief captain of this rescue team was Yang Fan. And this person called Meng Lang was the one who was on the same ship as Xia Shui. Greetings, General, Yang Fan said. Are there only a few of you? Zhang Ying glanced around. Although the people who came were all experts in the army, there were only 100 of them. It was impossible for them to withstand such a fierce attack. We relied on the cover of the main warship to break through the blockade. The camp was also surrounded by the Abyssal tribe. We could only break through. Here are the supplies. Yang Fan took out a storage box in his hand. The storage space of this storage box was much larger than that of an ordinary storage ring. Furthermore, it was more stable and safe. If some people's storage rings were accidentally struck by yuan power during a battle, the cheaper storage rings would immediately be scrapped. At that time, the items inside would not be able to be taken out. What? A solemn glint flashed across Zhang Ying's eyes. At the same time, he glanced at the storage box in his hand. There were a lot of things stored in the box. At the very least, it was quite abundant in terms of strategic supplies. At least it could last for 3 days. Zhang Ying. Xia Shui came out. When Zhang Ying heard someone calling him, he was stunned for a moment. Then he quickly reacted. This voice sounded very familiar. He hurriedly looked over as well. Xia Shui. Zhang Ying's eyes suddenly revealed a look of excitement. He did not expect to meet Xia Shui in such a place. The two of them were very good sisters. Later, after Zhang Ying joined the army, they rarely saw each other. All of you go and have a rest. Zhang Ying couldn't easily lose his composure, so he dismissed his men first. Why you here? Zhang Ying was also very surprised to see Xia Shui in front of him. He quickly said, Come in with me. I heard that you are now the chief disciple of Tianzong Academy. I didn't expect you to be so successful. Zhang Ying was a few years older than Xia Shui. Xia Shui also lowered her head and chuckled. I was also lucky, so I was qualified to enter Tianzong Academy. Well, you are successful. But why are you here? Don't you know how dangerous this place is? Zhang Ying's face suddenly became serious. After all, this situation was not a joke. To come to such a dangerous place, although it was a very happy thing to meet with a thick-skinned person, he couldn't risk his life like this. Sister Zhang Ying, you saved my life back then. Now that you are in trouble, how can I sit back and do nothing? Xia Shui's eyes were incomparably firm. When Zhang Ying saw Xia Shui's eyes, he knew that there was no way to persuade her. After all, Zhang Ying knew Xia Shui's character very well. As long as this girl decided on something, basically no one could change her mind. Sigh, although the situation is very dangerous now, you can rest assured that I will send you back. Zhang Ying said. Xia Shui was his sister. Naturally, he couldn't let Xia Shui be in danger. I am now a lot stronger. Xia Shui also had her own pride. After all, with her current strength, she wasn't so weak that she couldn't withstand a single blow. I know you are strong. As soon as Zhang Ying finished speaking, the warship suddenly shook violently, as if a terrifying force was approaching. Immediately, Zhang Ying's eyes suddenly changed. Not good, it's the commander of the Abyss race. During this period of time, Zhang Ying had also collected some information about the Abyss race. The current Abyss race was in fact unified under the command of the Abyss race's commander. As long as the commander of the Abyss race was killed, there would be no problem. The remaining Abyss race were not to be feared. Now, there were a total of 5,000 armored soldiers on the warship. If each of them killed 5 or 6, they could kill tens of thousands of Abyss race. When the two of them rushed out of the cabin, they realized that the powerful fluctuation wasn't coming for their warship. Instead, it was in the direction of the shore. Zhou Zheng was already very close to the main warship. But at this moment he was suddenly locked by a terrifying aura. Immediately, Zhou Zheng knew that this was troublesome. He didn't expect to be targeted by the opponent's expert. Boom! Zhou Zheng threw a punch at the sea below. Immediately, the punch directly set off a violent wave on the sea. The surrounding seawater also quickly spread outwards. It was these waves that directly pushed the main battleship forward. Its teacher Zhou Zheng. Xia Shui saw the aura of the punch and immediately knew that it must be Zhou Zheng who was fighting in the sky. So strong. Zhang Ying saw that Zhou Zheng was fighting against the Abyss race's commander alone, and there was a trace of horror in his eyes. No wonder it was said that primitive emperors had the power to destroy the world. With such strength, there was nothing to say. How many people in the world could resist such strength? Chapter 1509. However, Zhou Zheng was having a hard time. The opponent's attacks were mysterious and unpredictable. Dozens of water arrows were shot out from the water surface from time to time. The power of these water arrows was also quite strong. They almost directly pierced through Zhou Zheng's body. Therefore, Zhou Zheng had to go all out in every attack to be able to block them. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. The opponent's combat strength was at least at grade 6 or even grade 7 primitive emperor realm. But in fact, this was only the attack power of the abyssal race on the surface of the water. If the abyssal race appeared directly under the water, their combat power would increase even more rapidly. Fire in that direction. Since both sides were so close to each other, Zhang Ying could not let go of such a good opportunity. While the others were still waiting to watch the show, Zhang Ying gave the order to attack. Immediately, the main warship released a roaring light that resembled a fire dragon. Boom! The warship itself shook violently for a moment. Then, a terrifying shockwave quickly swept out and blasted forward. The water along the way evaporated. Boom! It hit. A circular vacuum with a diameter of more than 50 meters appeared on the surface of the sea. Even the abyssal race commander was startled by this. Sure enough, the equipment of these humans was quite powerful. Just this one shot. It wiped out tens of thousands of devouring Yuan clan members in the sea. Even the abyssal race commander was forced to dive into the ground. The abyss clan commander disappeared. When Zhou Zheng saw this, he quickly leaped into the air and glided through the air. He landed on the main warship. Phew! Zhou Zheng finally heaved a sigh of relief. After all, after landing, he finally felt a sense of security in his heart. Otherwise, the feeling of staying in midair would always make him feel uneasy. After landing, he could finally feel the true freedom. Teacher. Xia Shui quickly went up to him. The shot just now made Zhou Zheng look a little embarrassed. There were water stains on his body. However, Zhou Zheng had already dried his clothes with the use of his Yuan force. You brat. When Zhou Zheng saw Xia Shui, he was also furious. However, Xia Shui was also the most outstanding student of the Tianzong Academy. It was said that even Lord Evil Lord had personally come forward to guide Xia Shui. As such, there was nothing he could do about Xia Shui. Who asked him to be so outstanding? Of course, he could only spoil such an outstanding person. Senior Zhou, Xia Shui risked her life to save me. Zhang Ying quickly stepped forward. He was worried that Zhou Zheng would blame Xia Shui for this. If Xia Shui's days in the Sky Sect Academy were not good, then Zhang Ying would be guilty. You must be Zhang Ying. Zhou Zheng did not say anything else. Looking at Zhang Ying and Xia Shui, it was good that they were fine. Since they were fine, the abyssal race commander might be a little tricky, but it was not like they had no chance. After all, the main battleship was quite powerful. Tell your men to get ready. We're going back. Zhou Zheng said. When they arrived, Zhang Hengliang had already set up everything in Binhai City. They would provide cover fire on the spot. Once the two sides met, there would basically be no problem. However, the problem was that the distance between the two sides was at least 180 miles. They had to rely on themselves to deal with the dangers of this 180 miles distance. Since Zhou Zheng was here, this responsibility naturally fell on Zhou Zheng's shoulders. Since you are the main commander of this battleship, I will listen to your orders. Let's go back together, Zhou Zheng said. The main threat was naturally handed over to Zhou Zheng. After all, none of these people could fight. Zhang Ying's eyes lit up. Zhou Zheng himself was a primitive emperor powerhouse. Since there was an additional primitive emperor expert on the battleship, there was no doubt that their combat strength would increase greatly. Even the soldiers on the battleship would be greatly encouraged and would be filled with confidence. In that case, they would go all out and kill their way back. Alright, thank you for your help, Senior Zhou. Immediately, Zhang Ying handed over the battle mission. When Meng Lang and the others saw Zhou Zheng, their faces were full of respect. Before they set off, this person had been standing with their commander. His status was definitely not simple. They did not expect him to be a mentor of Tianzong Academy. They had long known that Xia Shui was a disciple of Tianzong Academy. However, they did not care much about the disciples of Tianzong Academy. However, Meng Lang had seen Xia Shui in action and knew that her strength was not simple. He must not underestimate her. Immediately, the main battleship moved forward rapidly. Along the way, there were sparks and lightning. All the weapons on the battleship were fully utilized. The bombardment on the surface of the sea made the Abyssal clan very hot. The entire sea was like a hot pot. Rumble. The large battleship broke through the surface of the sea quickly. This caused everyone's heart to be extremely excited. Zhou Zheng did not take action. The task that Zhang Ying had given Zhou Zheng was to lock onto the position of the Abyssal clan's commander and engage him at any time. As long as he could hold the Abyssal clan's commander back, with sufficient ammunition, it would not be difficult to break out of the encirclement. Boom! The main battleship had advanced a distance of 80 miles. It was less than 100 miles away from the place where the battle would take place. However, this distance was already enough to make the Abyssal clan's members excited. They also erupted with a very strong counterattack. Boom! Suddenly, a powerful aura erupted from the surface of the sea. It's coming! Zhou Zheng's eyes instantly locked onto a direction. However, after this aura, an even more powerful aura suddenly rushed out from behind him. What? Zhou Zheng was also shocked by the current situation. How could there be an even stronger aura? This was too illogical. This was too much. What? Zhang Ying's expression changed instantly. She was also a Yuan monarch. Otherwise, she would not have become a commander at such a young age. When she felt this aura, Zhang Ying felt a sense of despair and helplessness. The strength of the other party was too terrifying. Yang Fan, Meng Lang, aimed the god-slaying main cannon in this direction. Zhang Ying growled. In front of that even more powerful aura, a figure suddenly appeared, allowing Zhang Ying to see clearly. It was like a giant octopus standing on the surface of the sea. However, they were at least 200 meters apart. The light was too dim and she could not see clearly. At this moment, Zhang Ying had no other choice. Fire! Zhang Ying shouted angrily. Boom! Boom! A deafening explosion erupted. Even the cannon mount fixed on the deck directly cracked the deck. This was caused by the powerful recoil. It was as if there was a ball of blazing fire, like the sun, sweeping forward rapidly. The god-slaying main cannon. It could be said to be the most powerful weapon on the battleship. Basically, if an Yuan monarch elite were to face this cannon head-on, they would only be blasted into smithereens. This ball of fire lit up the sky. Everyone, including Zhou Zheng, looked over. The sudden appearance of the abyssal race was something that even Zhou Zheng had no confidence in. Furthermore, there were two of them. They were basically doomed. They had to kill one of them first. Only then would they have a chance at victory. The giant octopus standing on the surface of the sea did not dodge. Instead, it opened its mouth and swallowed the ball of fire. It actually ate the god-slaying main cannon. When Meng Lang caught sight of this, his eyes widened. This was way too exaggerated. To think that the God-Slayer Master Cannon would be devoured by it. In this world, he had never seen such a strong living being before. This was way too scary. It's over. Zhang Ying's eyes were filled with despair. The other party could eat the God-slaying main cannon directly. Logically speaking, it should have exploded by now. However, the other party did not change at all. At the same time, it suddenly blasted an extremely powerful sound wave in the direction of the main battleship. It seemed to have formed the force of a tsunami. It directly pushed the main battleship to the back. Boom! The appearance of this force destroyed the main battleship along with the power it carried. With a loud bang, the main battleship lost its power and could only let the other party move freely on the surface of the sea. Continue. Zhang Ying had no other choice but to continue the attack with the God-slaying main cannon. It's still on cooldown. Yang Fan replied loudly. The God-slaying main cannon required at least 3 minutes of cooldown time to recover. If it were to be used forcefully, it would explode on the spot. Before the other party could attack, the main battleship would explode on its own. Prepare for a hand-to-hand battle. At this point they could only fight to the death. The giant octopus seemed to be closing in rapidly from the surface of the sea. Zhou Zheng placed a hand on Xia Shui's shoulder. I'll send you out later. Since he was a teacher, he could not possibly say that he was running away. No matter what, he had to give Xia Shui the chance to survive. Just as everyone was preparing for the final battle, suddenly, a terrifying sword chi flew over from the surface of the sea. This sword chi split the seawater on the surface of the sea into two. The sword chi maintained the state of the seawater. Chapter 1510. When the sword chi appeared, Yi Zichen was shocked. Naturally, Zhang Ying and the others also saw it. Although it was nighttime, the earth-shattering scene created by the sword chi was something that no one would miss. They all widened their eyes in shock. What is that? The sword chi quickly approached. Even the powerful Abyss Clan octopus on the sea looked back. Then, with a loud bang, it was hit directly by the sword chi. The body of this giant octopus was easily cut into two halves on the surface of the sea. The corpse fell into the sea. Everyone stared at the scene in front of them, dumbfounded. This was too exaggerated. Zhou Zheng was also stunned when he saw this scene. He had never seen such a powerful sword chi. In the Xingyan dynasty, there were not many people who could reach this level. A figure landed on the warship. Brother Zhou Zheng, long time no see. When Li Zongjio landed, Zhou Zheng suddenly looked at the person beside him. It turned out that Li Zongjio had landed beside him without him noticing. When he saw Li Zongjio, Zhou Zheng still thought that he was dreaming. Evil Lord. When Zhou Zheng saw Li Zongjio's face clearly, he was shocked. Xia Shui naturally saw Li Zongjio and immediately greeted Li Zongjio in surprise. Evil Lord. Since Li Zongjio was here, it meant that all of them were now saved. Zhang Ying and the others saw that there was an additional young man on the deck. The latter looked extremely ordinary. Between his eyebrows, there was a sense of harmony, as if he was aloof from worldly affairs. However, if one looked carefully, it was the note of an expert who laughed proudly at the world. It was not that he was aloof from worldly affairs, but that there was nothing in this world that could compete with him. Evil Lord. Of course, Zhang Ying had heard of this name, but he never thought that he would be lucky enough to see the legendary Evil Lord. You're here too. Seeing that Xia Shui was also there, Li Zongjio also greeted her. After all, Xia Shui still had a lot of potential. If she was properly cultivated, it would be very beneficial for the future of Tianzong Academy to cultivate a successor and a signboard. After that, Li Zongjio did not continue to talk to the others. He pushed the sea surface with his palm. Immediately, the enormous warship began to move. Moreover, this speed was even faster than the warship at full power. It was practically 2 times the speed. Such a terrifying speed almost caused the main warship to fly above the sea. If Li Zongjio wanted to make the warship fly, it would be easy, but there was no need. Just this speed alone was enough for the abyssal race to catch up. Go. The warship sped through the sea ahead. Li Zongjio also threw out the peerless sword in his hand. Immediately, the unparalleled sword erupted with a terrifying flame power. In an instant, a firestorm formed on the surface of the sea. Boom! Raging flames burned on the surface of the sea. When this scene appeared, everyone's eyes widened. The abyssal race that had almost taken their lives and trapped them on the surface of the sea for an entire day had been incinerated so easily. Even the opponent's commander-level powerhouse did not manage to escape. He was directly incinerated, leaving his life behind in the sea. Behind them was a long wave of fire. "Why are you here too?" Li Zongjio did not look worried at all and actually began to chat with Zhou Zheng. After all, Li Zongjio's cultivation was almost at its limit now. Before he made any new progress, he would probably maintain this state for a while. Therefore, Li Zongjio had become more talkative now. It was not bad to chat with some old friends when he had nothing to do. "I'm afraid you don't know that I'm now a teacher of Tianzong Academy," Zhou Zheng said. "You're so smart. Back then, I guess Su Hong invited you several times, but I didn't see you go. Isn't that so?" Although Zhang Ying did not have the heart to interrupt the conversation between the two, 3 commander-level abyssal race rushed out from the sea of fire in the distance. Senior, over there? Although the current speed of the ship was very fast, if these 3 commander-level existences caught up with them, they would definitely destroy the main warship. The other party had such strength. However, Li Zongjio did not seem to hear him at all. Then, a figure condensed on the peerless sword. Huo Wushuang appeared, stepping on the void, and immediately saw the abyssal race rushing in front of him. With a wave of his hand, a flaming sword energy easily killed the 3 commander-level abyssal race. Raging flames curled up in front of him. Huo Wushuang's figure rose into the air, then he retracted the flames on his body and landed lightly on the warship. "You've broken through?" Li Zongjio was very surprised to see Huo Wushuang. After such a long time, Huo Wushuang finally broke through. The Absolute Saint Realm. Huo Wushuang's original body in his previous life was also at the Absolute Saint Realm, but later on he wanted to set up a plan to annex the human race, so he hid from the Demon Suppression Palace and turned into 2 clones of the King of Fire and Sky Wu. Originally, the King of Fire's fate was to be devoured by Sky Wu. Then, Sky Wu took control of this powerful force and directly occupied the human race's world. However, the current situation was that Sky Wu was killed, and Huo Wushuang survived. This kind of mysterious change was a little surprising. At least, Li Zongjio was surprised. Now that Huo Wushuang had gone through several transformations, not only did his strength recover, but his strength had also broken through. The people on the ship also saw the sword that easily killed the abyssal tribe. Unexpectedly, a woman appeared. Moreover, this woman also had a devastatingly beautiful appearance. Everyone's eyes were fixed on her. They were attracted by Huo Wushuang's fiery red hair and the clothes on her body that showed off her figure perfectly. "I've broken through." Huo Wushuang nodded. Then he looked at the strangers around him. His eyes were filled with doubt. "This is Huo Wushuang, my friend." Li Zongjio introduced him to the crowd. Zhou Zheng was the first to react. Huo Wushuang's strength was so powerful that the power that he had just unleashed was incomparably shocking. With such an expert in charge, it made everyone feel at ease. Indeed, he was the evil lord. Even if they were friends of the evil lord, they would at least be at the supreme state. "Supreme Wushuang." Zhou Zheng hurriedly greeted. Huo Wushuang nodded at Zhou Zheng. Since Li Zongjio had introduced him, it meant that these people should be Li Zongjio's friends, and he had to give them some face. Huo Wushuang, who had broken through, did not need to enter the unparalleled sword. He only needed to carry the unparalleled sword and follow Li Zongjio. However, Huo Wushuang did not like to talk. The warship rushed over with a roar. When it appeared in front of the Binhai Navy, Zhang Hengliang's eyes were filled with shock. "Oh my God, they actually did it." Then, Zhang Hengliang ordered everyone to attack, and they must protect one of the main warships. It would be ridiculous if they could not even save the ship in front of them. No, the Abyss clan seemed to have disappeared. There was no obstruction, and the warship arrived at the port easily. Many parties gathered, and Zhang Hengliang quickly led his men to board the ship. "Greetings, Commander." Zhang Ying appeared in front of Zhang Hengliang unharmed, and then knelt down to Zhang Hengliang. "Rise." Zhang Hengliang did not show much concern. After all, there were so many subordinates here. "Commander, this is Senior Evil Lord, and this is Senior Hua Wushuang. And Senior Zhou Zheng. If not for the three of you, our ship might not have been able to return," Zhang Ying said. Then, Zhang Hengliang quickly looked over. "What's going on? Why are there so many people on the ship all of a sudden?" "Your Lord Imperial Tutor, the protector of the nation." Zhang Hengliang immediately knelt down on one knee in front of Li Zhongjio. When he knelt down, everyone in the navy knelt down as well. The person in front of them was the true protector of the nation. Moreover, he was the master of the current Emperor Xingyan. He was not someone who could be replaced by Evil Lord. Zhang Ying suddenly remembered. Indeed, the protector of the nation Li Zhongjio was not as simple as Evil Lord. In the underworld, Li Zhongjio was Evil Lord. But in the imperial court, at the official level, Li Zhongjio was the true protector of the nation. How could they ignore etiquette? "Get up, all of you. There's no need to kneel here and there. It's troublesome." Li Zhongjio waved his hand and said. Behind him, a large group of people also stood up. "This is not the place to talk. Imperial Tutor, please rest in the mansion. I'll get someone to prepare some refreshments," Zhang Hengliang said. He did not expect such a big shot to come. With the authority of the Imperial Tutor, he should be the most powerful person in the entire Xingyan dynasty. Even the Emperor Xingyan had to listen to him. A person of such status naturally could not be neglected. Otherwise, with a single word he could directly remove one's head from one's neck. "Forget it, it's troublesome. Let's do it here. Show me the information here." Li Zhongjio waved his hand and said. Obviously, Li Zhongjio was not a person who liked corruption. Chapter 1511. Not only was he not corrupt, but he also liked efficiency and didn't like procrastination. Zhang Hengliang immediately understood what Li Zhongjio meant. Obviously, for someone like Li Zhongjio, time was very precious. There couldn't be a moment of delay. Then, Zhang Hengliang ordered his men to organize all the important information and set up a temporary meeting room on the main battleship. In the meeting room, the 8 main warships' commanders, Zhang Hengliang, Zhou Zheng, Li Zhongjio, and Hua Wushuang were present. There were a total of 12 people. Zhang Ying was in charge of introducing the situation. Zhang Ying had gone out to sea this time with the reconnaissance mission. He needed to figure out the situation of the abyssal race. Although he had lost a lot of people, the information he had obtained in the end was still pretty good. According to the information we've obtained, all the abyssal race are on an island 1,500 miles away from Binhai City. This island is called Golden Island because there are many minerals on this island. It was originally Binhai City's mining ground. However, the abyssal race invaded some time ago. Now, Golden Island has become their base. According to our judgment, there are at least 1 million abyssal race members on Golden Island. Among them, there are at least 1,000 commander-level abyssal race members. Zhang Ying announced the results of this investigation. However, the data was very shocking. Not only that, we have also detected a stronger existence, temporarily named commander level. Their strength is at least equal to a supreme being. Above the commander level is the commander level. If I'm not wrong, the commander level abyssal race member is the strongest on Golden Island. A commander level abyssal race member was already a supreme being. Then, what kind of existence would a commander level abyssal race member be? Everyone felt a sense of fear just thinking about it. If these millions of abyssal race members attacked Binhai City at the same time, the Binhai Navy might not be able to resist. Therefore, this could be said to be a very dangerous situation. That's all? Li Zhongjio asked. In other people's eyes, Golden Island had become a real hell on earth. However, in Li Zhongjiu's eyes, such a place was too weak. The forces on Golden Island weren't worth mentioning at all. With his strength, it wouldn't take long for him to kill all the abyssal clansmen on Golden Island. That's all the information we've gathered so far, Zhang Ying said. After all, from what they heard, Li Zhongjiu did not seem to be very satisfied with this intelligence-gathering operation. All right, Zhou Zheng, you can come with me. Bring the group of people from the Tianzong Academy to the island to gain experience. You're in charge of the big ship outside, right? Li Zhongjiu asked. Zhang Ying immediately nodded. Yes, I'm in charge of the main battleship, Wind and Thunder. All right, you're in charge of driving the ship. Let's set off now. Everyone should rest on the ship. Tomorrow morning, we'll arrive at Golden Island. Don't worry about anything else. Li Zhongjiu said decisively. Things were that simple. They just had to set off with the people. We're setting off now? Zhang Hengliang and the others had just understood the situation. Setting off just like that? They only needed one main battleship? Could it be that they didn't need such a huge fleet of battleships? One ship was not enough to fill the gap between Golden Island's teeth. The current strength of the Binhai Navy was at most enough to protect the current Binhai city. They really didn't have the strength to attack Golden Island. However, no one dared to refute Li Zhongjiu's words. Instead, Zhang Ying saluted. Zhang Ying. For Zhang Ying, it didn't matter even if she had to sacrifice herself to have such an honor. The most important thing was to protect her country. She must eliminate these damned abyssal race. Zhang Hengliang wanted to follow, but he was the commander-in-chief. He couldn't leave Binhai City easily. He had to stay in Binhai City to oversee it. However, he also sent his personal guards to Zhang Ying. They were Yang Fan, Meng Lang, and the others. This elite team had rich combat and defense experience. They definitely wouldn't let Zhang Ying get injured easily. Zhang Ying didn't request to bring the rest along. In addition, some of the most basic combat personnel were transferred from the ship. After all, no one knew what the situation would be like in this battle at sea. They had to protect their lives. They didn't want to cause unnecessary damage. There were a total of 30 students from Tianzong Academy. All of them looked about the same age as Li Zhongjiu. In terms of age, Li Zhongjiu should be at the same age as the other party. However, the difference in status between the two was like heaven and earth. In front of Li Zhongjiu, these people in front of him were basically like grandchildren. However, in reality, Li Zhongjiu was more than 3,000 years old. Naturally, he was the same as these young people in front of him. On the deck, Zhou Zheng had already lined up neatly with the 30 people from Tianzong Academy. The eyes of these students were also filled with intense anticipation. Previously, when Xia Shui had returned, she had also told the others about Li Zhongjiu's visit. Therefore, these students were all very excited now. They were lucky enough to see the legendary Evil Lord. He was the real founder of Tianzong Academy. Although Li Zhongjiu didn't put in any effort, all the resources came from the White Deer Mansion. Therefore, Li Zhongjiu was the real founder. When Li Zhongjiu appeared in front of them, the boys and girls in front of them all widened their eyes and looked at each other. This ordinary-looking young man in front of them was the legendary Evil Lord? Could he be Evil Lord's son? However, they had long known that the person in front of them was Evil Lord. They just didn't dare to believe it. There were even detailed introductions in some books about Li Zhongjiu. There were even portraits, although they weren't very vivid. However, Evil Lord gave off the feeling that he was an old man even older than Zhou Zheng. There was also an evil glint in his eyes. However, when they looked at Li Zhongjiu, there was nothing. Evil Lord, just how evil was he? You are all from Tianzong Academy, right? Congratulations. Tomorrow morning, our ship will dock at Golden Island. I want all of you to go to the island alone and undergo a trial. Chapter 1512. Training on the Island. When everyone heard this, they felt as if their hearts were struck hard, and they were stunned on the spot. What? Training on the island? Didn't they say that the island has been completely occupied by the Abyss tribe? Aren't we just sending ourselves to our deaths? I don't want to die yet. These disciples, who had never seen the world, started to wail and howl. After all, they weren't well-trained soldiers, even though they had received a period of training at the beginning. But in the face of such a matter of life and death, what else could they do? If they did not speak up now, they would lose their lives in the end. Tell me, isn't it miserable? Zhou Zheng was also quite worried. Although these disciples were indeed somewhat talented, they still needed to be given time to hone their skills. If you directly throw people out, then maybe in the end, only 2 or 3 people will be able to come back out of the 30 people who went out. These people could be said to be the first batch of disciples of the Tianzong Academy. With such a reputation, they must not mess it up. Who knows how many people were waiting for the Tianzong Academy to become a joke? Li Zongjiu observed for a while. Although most of them were panicking, there were still a few who were calmer and seemed to have realized that this was a very good opportunity. Now that the legendary evil lord was here to protect them, what was there to be afraid of? And if they could catch the eye of Li Zongjiu in this training, their future would be limitless. There would be a very good opportunity for them to break through directly, to reach a higher level. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Of course, they had to grasp it accurately. After watching for a while, Li Zongjiu also continued. Kill 100 Abyss tribe and you will be rewarded with a 5th grade elixir. Kill 500 and you will be rewarded with a 6th grade elixir. Kill 1,000 and you will be rewarded with a 7th grade elixir. Kill 10,000 and you will be rewarded with a 8th grade elixir. Kill 100,000 and you will be rewarded with a 9th grade elixir. Li Zongjiu said word by word. When the first word, elixir, rang in everyone's ears, everyone quieted down. They quietly looked at Li Zongjiu, waiting for Li Zongjiu to continue. The further down he went, the more abundant the rewards would be. Moreover, it was quite direct. The price was clearly stated, the number of kills, and the amount of rewards. Everything was clearly stated. A 9th grade medicinal pill. The legendary elixir. It was only at this moment that the crowd suddenly recalled that the evil dominator in front of them seemed to have concocted a pill that surpassed the 10th grade not long ago. Such a terrifying level was an extremely shocking power in the eyes of anyone. Can I join too? When Zhou Zheng heard this, he immediately felt his own breathing quicken. A grade 9 pill. 100,000. This was probably the closest he had ever been to a grade 9 pill. He hadn't expected that this young man would have such a good opportunity to come into contact with a grade 9 pill. For them, this was simply a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Even the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor wouldn't be able to offer such a reward. It was impossible for them to give out such a reward. It was too terrifying. Who could accept such a reward? Such a temptation was something that they had to complete even if they had to risk their lives. The students before them were only at the origin ancestor realm. It would take a lot of time and effort to kill the lowest level of the Abyssal clan. 100 of them was already an astronomical figure for them. However, to truly widen the absolute gap between them and the others, of course, depended on one's own strength and opportunity. When the opportunity came, one would be able to surpass the crowd. You take charge. Save one and I will give you a reward. Li Zongjiu said. If Zhou Zheng saved one, it meant that among these people, there would be people who would lose this opportunity to give away their elixir. However, for Zhou Zheng, this was also a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Finally, such an opportunity had come. Obviously, things like elixirs were completely worthless in Li Zongjiu's eyes. They could be casually given out as rewards. However, this wasn't so simple for the others. Even if they wanted to obtain a grade 5 pill, they would have to go to the Sky Elixir Pavilion and spend a lot of money to buy it. Of course, Li Zongjiu could also refine it. However, it was obvious that Li Zongjiu didn't care about money at all. How could an elixir made by an ordinary alchemist compare to the one refined by Li Zongjiu? Even if Li Zongjiu refined a grade 6 pill single-handedly, it would still be better than a grade 7 alchemist who used all his strength to refine a grade 6 pill. May I ask, Evil Lord, if we kill 400 of them, will we be rewarded with 4 grade 5 pills? A petite girl in the crowd raised her hand and asked. Li Zongjiu looked over. Although this girl looked like a child and was very young, her mind was very firm. When Li Zongjio announced the island trial, this little lowly didn't say much. Instead, she was looking forward to Li Zongjio's next words. Obviously, she was also a person with ideas. Yes, you can exchange with me like this. Li Zongjio nodded and said. When they heard that Li Zongjio was actually willing to do this, everyone was stunned. Although it was difficult to kill 10,000 or 100,000 of them, it wasn't difficult to kill 1 or 200 of them. As long as they were given time, no one would be bad. In this kind of environment, if they worked hard, it would definitely be beneficial to their own cultivation. Moreover, even after they came out, this kind of elixir reward was simply giving away their cultivation for free. Where else could they find such a good thing? Now, is there anyone who wants to quit? Li Zongjio said lightly. Now, even if he asked them to leave, they probably wouldn't be willing to. Isn't it just a trial? Just treat it as serving the country. Yes, we are the dignified human race. Why would we be afraid of these demons and ghosts? One by one, they started to brag. They couldn't wait to go to the Golden Island and start killing. Each of you only has one chance to be saved. Of course, if I see that you don't work hard, I won't bother to save you. Because even if you are saved, you are just a piece of trash. Li Zongjio said lightly. Everyone's heart tightened. As expected of the evil lord. His way of doing things was so evil. It meant that he didn't like you. Even if you were to die, he wouldn't save you, even if you were a disciple of the Sky Sect Academy. When Zhang Ying and the others heard Li Zongjio's promise of such a generous reward, they were envious. It would be great if he could have such a good opportunity. Chapter 1513. However, they were already soldiers. Therefore, they couldn't shamelessly ask Li Zongjio to join them. The main battleship moved forward on the vast sea. All the disciples of the Tianzong Academy chose to conserve their energy. At the same time, they also prepared the weapons in their hands to kill the enemy, as well as their equipment and weapons. This was because a truly bloody battle was about to begin. When they arrive at Golden Island, they will know what they will be facing. Everything wasn't as simple as they imagined. Even thinking about it made them a little excited. As for Li Zongjio, he sat on the deck, facing the sea breeze as he cultivated. Although he didn't know the specific cultivation method, at least Li Zongjio could sense that if he wanted to break through the next realm, he would have to rely on his own comprehension. However, it was hard for Li Zongjio to say whether he could comprehend it or not. He could only rely on luck. Huo Wushuang also sat beside Li Zongjio, facing the sea breeze together. The latter also sat like that. Not only did Huo Wushuang recover his strength, but he also broke through to the second-grade Absolute Saint realm. This kind of breakthrough in strength surprised Li Zongjio. It seemed that Huo Wushuang also had someone behind him. If Li Zongjio wanted to destroy Golden Island, it would be too easy. However, Li Zongjio also needed to train these people. It just so happened that he had such an opportunity. It was mainly because Li Zongjio thought that almost everyone in the other worlds was good at fighting. But in the human race, aside from himself, there weren't many who were good at fighting. If something were to happen in the future and they were to fight with others, then wouldn't they be at a disadvantage? Therefore, the most important thing now was to make these people aware of the crisis. They had to increase their strength. This was also the reason why Li Zongjio wasn't in a hurry to destroy the Abyss clan. The more peaceful the world was, the fewer experts there would be. Only in times of disaster could one truly enter the world of heroes. If you didn't give others a chance to explore, how could they prove their strength to you? Sometimes, the method was also quite important. Even the Li family was the same. Now, the Li family had almost no external enemies. If it weren't for the fact that Li Zongjio and Li Tianqing were holding the fort, the people in the Li family would have already started fighting. Otherwise, the group of people below would definitely engage in internal strife. It was hard to say what kind of massacre would occur between them. For the sake of fighting for power, it was normal for such internal friction to occur. Life was born in sorrow and death in peace. The main force's warships sailed through the night, and their speed was extremely fast. Soon, they were 100 miles away from Golden Island. And they saw a light. Everyone looked over. Dawn rose, but at the same time, the entire Golden Island was revealed in front of everyone. Zhang Ying and the others were very familiar with Golden Island, but when they saw the island in front of them, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The reason why Golden Island was called this was because in the beginning, as long as there was light, Golden Island would show a golden light. From afar, it looked like a golden mountain floating on the sea. Even the trees on the mountain were yellow. But at this moment, Golden Island. It was no longer yellow. Instead, the whole mountain was covered in a kind of lifeless darkness. Even though they were nearly 100 miles away, they could still feel the power of darkness and death sweeping over from the mountain peak. The disciples of the Celestial Sect Academy also walked out of the cabin. Even Xia Shui could clearly feel that her heart seemed to be completely suppressed when she saw the huge dark mountain. Although he couldn't see any abyssal race at a glance, he could sense that countless abyssal race were hiding inside, ready to devour everything that came near at any time. Golden Island was just in front of them, but Xia Shui and the others' mood was extremely heavy. But for the elixir promised by Li Zongjiu, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Of course, they couldn't give up. A single elixir was worth at least 10 years of hard work. If they could get 2 of them, they could get a 6th grade or even a 7th grade elixir. When they break through, they would be in a peak state. How could one not take the risk to become a person above others? One must go through great risks. There was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. Junior brothers and sisters, do you have the confidence to fight? In the face of such a strong pressure, Xia Shui couldn't help but ask. At least she had to boost the morale. Xia Shui's cultivation was the highest among them, so she naturally had to shoulder the responsibility. Yes. Some people were afraid, so they used this method to release the fear in their heart. Although they knew that Evil Lord was here, and they shouldn't have to worry about their lives, they should know that under such circumstances, the pressure wouldn't be reduced. Who knew if Evil Lord would save them? What if he was too late? There were a total of 30 of them. If 2 or 3 of them were to encounter danger in different places, no matter how strong Evil Lord was, he wouldn't be able to appear in different places in an instant. Therefore, it was impossible to count on Li Zongjiu to save them. They couldn't put their lives in the hands of others. The one who controlled their own fate was still themselves. We're about to enter the shallow sea area. We can't go any closer. We can only lower the boat here and let you guys land on the island. Zhang Ying said. This moment was really coming. Everyone's heart gradually became nervous. They were about 10 miles away from the shore of Golden Island. Don't waste the boat, just swim over. Just as Yang Fan and the others were helping them to lower the small boat down, Li Zongjiu suddenly jumped out and said, "What? Are you kidding me? Under the sea, there must be an abyssal tribe." Moreover, in the sea, the abyssal tribe's strength was obviously stronger, and the combat power they could display was also more terrifying. Furthermore, he had to swim under such circumstances. God knows how many times they had to die. Ah, Lord Evil Lord, this... Xia Shui quickly wanted to discuss with Evil Lord. This was too dangerous. Didn't they say that they would start the trial after landing on the island? But Li Zongjiu wasn't the kind of person who would say so much to kids like them. He waved his hand. Suddenly, a strong force directly threw Xia Shui and the others into the sea. They fell into the water one after another. Moreover, Li Zongjiu had also set up a restriction so that these people couldn't fly in the sea. They could only swim in the sea. Chapter 15-14. That's too cruel. We can't fly. There's a seal. The abyssal race is coming. But after these 30 people fell into the water, they immediately struggled like a group of grasshoppers. This was the first time they had encountered such an unexpected situation. They were directly thrown into the water. This was too sudden. Who would be able to take it? Everyone, gather around me and form a circle. Use the crossbow. There was great resistance in the water. However, it would waste a lot of energy to slash at them. And the effect was not great. Their previous battle plan against the abyssal race was all to pull them out of the water. After coming to the shore, it was basically the human race's world. No matter how strong you were in the water, your strength would be greatly reduced on the shore. But now, Li Zongjio directly threw all of them into the sea, directly into the main battlefield of the abyssal race. Wasn't this just sending them to their deaths? Only by defeating the enemy in the area that they were most proficient in could one truly defeat them. Otherwise, it would just be a coincidence. Therefore, this matter was very normal. Now, this group of people was struggling in the sea. Li Zongjio, Zhang Ying, and the others were also watching from the ship. The abyssal race was already close. And there were already people who were fighting. Fortunately, Xia Shui's reaction was fast enough. She gathered everyone and used a specially designed crossbow. This crossbow was also equipped by Tianzong Academy. It was very powerful and had a very strong explosive force. In the water, it could be used to its full potential. In the chaotic battle, these disciples of Tianzong Academy performed well. At least they killed a few of them. However, some of the lethal weapons that these people had prepared were also used up. This was also Li Zongjio's purpose. If you can guess everything I do, then I'm the evil lord. How can you see through me? Since it was a trial, of course, it had to be done under the most difficult conditions. Only then would the trial be effective. The group of people also rushed to the Golden Island, battered and exhausted. However, the weapons they had prepared were all used up. Although they were on the shore, each of them had a bitter look on their faces. It was simply too tragic. This is troublesome. I just used up all my heavenly explosion pearls. Me too. I've used all my life-saving items just now. I've worked so hard to save all of them. What should we do? The group of people also had long faces. Xia Shui didn't even have the time to comfort these people. In the next moment, a mysterious force directly separated these people. Immediately, these people also discovered that they were actually transferred away. His companions had all disappeared at this moment. He was the only one left in the world. Needless to say, this was definitely Evil Lord's doing. Too ruthless. He directly teleported everyone away. Li Zongjio's mind power had already surrounded the entire Golden Island. At the same time, it also temporarily restrained the powerful abyssal race, making them all stay where they were and unable to move. With Li Zongjio's current mind power, it wasn't difficult for him to do this. Although it was dangerous, it wasn't too far away. There were a few unlucky ones who fell directly into the lair of the abyssal tribe, and then inexplicably began to fight. These abyssal race had used a strange liquid to cover the entire Golden Island. Mainly, they wanted to plunder the resources on the Golden Island and absorb some of the minerals to strengthen their strength. This was also a shortcut to quickly improve their strength. Although fighting on the Golden Island wasn't as good as fighting in the sea, the entire Golden Island had been corroded by the power of these abyssal race. Therefore, they could still move around freely. The entire Golden Island had also started a frenzied killing and fighting. Those who could run had already started to do so. Those who couldn't run also wanted to end the battle quickly. No matter the cost, they had to kill these abyssal race. Otherwise, the number of abyssal race would only increase. It was impossible to guard against. Boom, boom. The originally quiet Golden Island suddenly became quite lively. Zhang Ying and the others on the main warship were also very nervous as they watched the situation on the Golden Island. With such a big commotion, it was obvious that the other party had already started fighting. Zhou Zheng's face was solemn as well. Wasn't this kind of pressure a little too much for these people? Don't be nervous. This day will come sooner or later, Li Zongjio said. Then, he sat on a platform that extended outwards from the main warship. He actually sat there and started fishing. Fishing? Looking at the actions of this evil lord, everyone thought that this evil lord was here for a vacation. What kind of place was this? To think that he would come here to fish. This was too much. There were no more fish to catch in this area. Most of them were eaten up by the abyssal race. However, Li Zongjio had to find something to do. Wu Shuang, after 1 hour, go and watch for me, Li Zongjio said. It was obvious that Li Zongjio did not intend to save anyone in the first hour. If he could not even hold on for an hour, then what was the use of him? If he died, then so be it. If he wasn't cruel, he would really think that this world was beautiful. Huo Wushuang nodded. Then, he leaped up and rushed to the sky above the Golden Island. However, he concealed himself. Huo Wushuang was an absolute saint. Although he was only a weapon spirit now, he had only lost his physical body. If he possessed the unparalleled sword, his strength would be even more powerful. He would be more threatening. An hour later, Zhou Jing also went. After all, he was counting on Li Zongjio to reward him with some pills. However, in just half an hour, 2 people had already been killed. Huo Wushuang strictly followed Li Zongjio's orders. He did not save anyone and just watched as the 2 people were killed by the abyssal race. Soon after, more and more people were eliminated. These people were basically running away, and some of them even had one of their hands broken. Zhou Jing directly fished out 5 people. All of them were sent for treatment. As for Li Zongjio, he did not feel anything at all. Even if they were disciples of the Sky Sect Academy, since they were trash, no matter where they went, they would be trash without any value. Zhang Ying and the others saw Li Zongjio's attitude with their own eyes. To these people who were severely injured, and even dead, Li Zongjio was not moved at all. Indifferent. Cruel. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.